Why didn't you tell me? If I had known, I would have. Who do you think you are? I don't care about an old man turning 60. How can anyone make good decisions at that age? What a joke. I've only had feelings for you since we got married, but now, I don't feel anything anymore. I'm Nancy, my husband, Max, and I raised 2 kids together. Recently, our youngest turned 18. Raising kids for over 20 years wasn't easy, but having them helped me stay strong. I'm really thankful for their support. Max supported our kids too, and for that, I thought he was a good husband, until one day, everything changed. I came home early from work one afternoon and heard Max and our son, Aaron, talking and laughing inside. Hey, now that I'm 20, I think we can start what we planned. Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing. We're father and son, after all. When should we tell her? I'll bring it up this weekend. I'm so excited. I wonder what she'll do. She'll probably cry and beg me to stop. When will Abby be my new mom? She's ready whenever. Then I'll just divorce her. They were laughing, not realizing I was standing right outside the door, listening. I was shocked. I thought our family was happy, but they were talking about me like I wasn't even there, planning a divorce and talking about a woman named Abby. Was she Max's mistress? How long had they been planning this? I didn't know how to react. My phone had somehow started recording their conversation. I quietly left the house. Outside, I saw a mother with a small child. It made me feel so sad. Did Aaron hate me too? If it was just Max, I could handle it, but now my own son was part of this plan, and he was so casually talking about Abby, Max's mistress. I couldn't help but wonder how many times they had all met without me knowing. I called my daughter, Melanie, right away, desperate for some comfort. The phone rang twice before she answered. Hi, Melanie, are you okay? What's wrong, Mom? Your voice sounds weird. I'm just at the usual cafe near our house. Okay, I'll be right there. Melanie has always been independent, even as a child. She never asked for money when she went to college, and now that she's working, she takes care of herself. She rushed to meet me at the cafe, just like always. Mom, what's going on? I hesitated, not sure whether to tell her the truth. Could this have something to do with Dad? I thought so. I wasn't ready to explain everything, so I asked her something instead. Is there anything I've done wrong as a mom? Anything you don't like? Why are you asking that, Mom? I just thought, now that Aaron's an adult and I can focus on myself, maybe I should look at my own life. Melanie stared at me, confused. Mom, there's nothing wrong. I'm really grateful for you. You and Dad worked hard, but it was mostly you, Mom, who did everything for me and Aaron. Really? What about your dad? He worked too. Well, he worked, but that's just what he was supposed to do. You did everything else. Melanie was right. Max had never really helped with family life, other than going to work. She had pointed out how little he had participated in raising us. What's going on with you and Dad? Tell me everything. I'm not a kid anymore, and maybe I can help. Melanie wanted to know what was going on with Max and Aaron. I'm in shock, I said. Yeah, me too. Well, what are you going to do about it? I guess I'll have to get a divorce. Yeah, I think that's the best option. Let me hear the recording. I didn't want to, but Melanie insisted, so I played the recording for her. I can't forgive them for this. Mom, we need more proof. A recording alone isn't enough. I'll ask a friend to help us. For now, stay at my place tonight, okay? The next day, Melanie had the day off, so she went out in the morning. I went to work, but later that day, she called me. Mom, let's meet up after work and go to the detective agency. Okay, thank you, and don't worry, I found a lawyer. Got it, thanks again. Melanie quickly made sure everything was set up for the divorce. After work, I met her at the detective agency. Okay, you'll have 3 days to get the evidence, the detective said. Got it. From what I hear in this recording, your husband has no idea how serious this is, but are you ready for whatever happens next? Yes, divorce is the only choice. I just want it to go as smoothly as possible. Understood, I'll do my job. The detective said it would take 4 days to gather everything, but I was called back in 2 days. 1 day of spying was enough to get everything we need, he said with a sly smile. Okay, thank you. I looked at the evidence the detective gathered. Max wasn't even trying to hide his affair. There were pictures of him walking around with his mistress, holding hands. Some of the photos were shocking, but they showed the truth. I took the evidence to the lawyer I had an appointment with. The female lawyer told me she had been through a similar experience. Her husband had also betrayed her, just like Max had betrayed me. She laughed in disbelief when she saw the evidence, saying it was just as bad as it seemed. She assured me that I would not only get alimony but also a severe punishment for Max. It was a busy and overwhelming week. During this time, I got a large alimony payment and finalized the divorce. Melanie and I went to my in-laws' house to show them the truth. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel sad. My in-laws had always been kind to me, but they needed to see all the evidence. My father-in-law, Albert, was really angry, and my mother-in-law, Sarah, was completely shocked. Well, of course, this is how it would be. Nancy, I never thought our foolish son would do something like this at his age. I'm so sorry, I can't believe he's my son. Disgusting. Thank you for your time today. With this evidence, I've decided to divorce him. I just wanted to let you know. I agree, no wonder you're divorcing him. Grandpa, it's not just him, Aaron is just as bad. Melanie played the recording of Max and Aaron to my in-laws, and they were both stunned. After Aaron said he wanted to go to graduate school, I'm not going to support someone who disrespects others like this, Albert said. Sarah nodded in agreement. Nancy, if you divorce him, come visit us whenever you can. You're like a daughter to us now. Don't worry, Max will never step foot in this house again. Thank you. You and Albert are like real family to me. I couldn't hold back my tears. My in-laws had always been so kind to me, and I loved them deeply. Knowing they would disown their own son to support me made me feel better, even though I knew this meant I wouldn't see them as often once I divorced Max. The next day, I confronted Max and Aaron. I went home with Melanie and my lawyer. Max hadn't contacted me even once in the 4 days I was gone, which told me everything I needed to know about how he felt. Who's here? Max asked when we arrived. This is Nancy's lawyer. Her name is Natalie. Her lawyer? You're here for the divorce, huh? Yeah, I want a divorce, but I'll take whatever comes from it. Aaron was acting cocky, as usual. This is perfect, you'll get your quick divorce. Alimony, right? You can pay for that, can't you, Dad? Max yelled as if Aaron's comment pushed him over the edge. Yeah, I suppose so. At least it saves me from explaining everything to her. Right, too bad Abby isn't here though. Wait, how do you know about Abby? I know, I even went to the detective agency. It seems you two were seeing each other every day. That makes sense if she's just one of your business partners. You've been together all this time, both in business and personally. Oh, I see, so you know about Abby. Well, since you know everything, it's simple. I don't want a mother like you. You're just a plain, old woman. I want a young, beautiful mother like Abby. Are you serious? Do you really not understand who helped you get here? Huh? It was Dad, obviously. Mom did all the hard work, running the house and doing everything else. Melanie, how can you talk about your father like that? Max shouted. Huh? I don't even see you as my parents anymore. Besides, Aaron called Mom that person too. Why is it okay for him but not for me? I've always hated how you always disagreed with everything. And how can I respect you as a parent when you're chasing after a woman 20 years younger than you? If you were single, I wouldn't care, but you have a family. That's creepy. Max couldn't say anything back to Melanie since she was right. Dad, enough. Let's get him out of here and invite Abby over, Melanie said. Right, let's sign the divorce papers. I took out the divorce papers I had prepared and handed them to Max. He seemed surprised, but Aaron pushed him to sign them. We're asking for $140,000 in alimony and property division. The joint property is worth $50,000, and the alimony is $40,000. Based on your income, this is reasonable. Just pay it, Dad. Abby will take care of it. Okay. Max transferred the $140,000, and I filed the divorce papers with the government office. We didn't need to use the evidence from the detective agency in the end. I was just glad we were able to get the divorce on our own terms. Hey, Mom, can you give me the data? Okay, but what are you planning to do with it? Don't worry, I won't use it for anything bad. I decided to let Melanie use the data, even though I had no idea what she was up to. A week later, I started receiving furious phone calls from Max. After work, I answered one of his calls, and he sounded livid. What does this mean? What are you talking about? You knew everything, didn't you? About what? About Abby. Oh, yes, but which part are you referring to? The part where you and your son, Aaron, are both dating Abby? Or the part where Abby, the supposed CEO's daughter, is a lie? Max fell silent. It's really weird and disgusting that a father and son are both dating the same woman. Shut up, I got fired from my father's company. Well, of course, it's all your fault, and I can't even get in touch with Abby now. She got fired too, you know. Well, of course, she was involved with a married man while working, and she even embezzled money from the company. Why didn't you tell me? If I'd known, I would've. Who do you think you are? You're just some old man about to turn 60, and you can't even make a decent decision. What a shame. I don't feel anything for you anymore. I haven't since we got married. I ended the call and blocked Max's contact, but Aaron kept calling me nonstop that day too. Hi, Mom, Grandpa won't help me with my tuition fees. You deserve it. Ask your father. He gave all his money to Abby, now I can't even reach her. I couldn't help but laugh. Well, she's upset about the money she embezzled. She only sees her father as a money tree. You probably gave all the money you made from your part-time job to her too, right? You're such a jerk, Aaron, laughing while your own kid is in trouble. Yes, I'm a jerk, and I take half the blame for how you turned out, but I did you a favor by divorcing your father. Now pay for your tuition. If you're an adult, that's your responsibility. Yeah, it's my responsibility, but I'm your mother, and I'm not giving you any money. I hung up, but I didn't block Aaron's contact. I hoped that one day, after he reflected on everything, we might talk again. Later, I found out that Aaron had gotten a job and seemed to have left his father. My parents-in-law informed me that Max was missing. He had often gone to their house to ask for money, but now he had disappeared. I'm almost 60, and I want to live a healthy life from now on. Plus, my grandchild is on the way. My second life is just beginning. 20 years younger? Wow, the husband must be the real challenger. I can't believe he and his son were both seeing the same woman at the same time. They've both been caught by a gold digger. I hope he truly reflects on his actions, and the money they took from him was supposed to be for his tuition. Thanks for watching until the end. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.
It was one of those days that seemed to blend into the rest. The kind of day where you go through the motions, not expecting much to change. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping my lukewarm coffee and scrolling through my emails, when a subject line caught my eye. You deserve to know. I clicked on it more out of curiosity than anything else. The email was anonymous, with a cryptic message that read, "Look closely before it's too late," followed by a photo of Grant, my husband, with a woman I didn't recognize. They were at a cafe, leaning in close, sharing a moment that looked far too intimate for my comfort. My heart skipped, then raced, as if trying to catch up with the reality that was unfolding before me. My name is Mabel, and up until that moment, I believed I had a pretty good handle on my life. I'm a dental hygienist, and I like to think I'm pretty good at reading people. But this felt like a betrayal I never saw coming. I stared at the screen, my mind a whirlwind of doubt and disbelief. Grant and I had been together for over a decade, and while things weren't perfect, I never imagined this. I decided to confront him that evening. As he walked through the door, I tried to act normal, but my hands shook slightly as I handed him a glass of wine. He took it, kissed my cheek, and asked about my day. I could barely focus on the small talk, my mind fixated on the email. "Grant," I said, trying to sound casual, "I got an interesting email today." He looked up from his phone, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "Oh, from who?" "That's the thing," I replied, watching his face closely. "It was anonymous, but it had a picture of you with someone I don't know." His reaction was immediate, a flicker of something. Was it guilt or surprise? Crossed his face before he composed himself. "Mabel, you know how these things are. Probably just some spam or a scam. You can't trust everything you see online." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But there was something in his tone, something evasive, that made my stomach twist. "And the woman in the picture?" He shrugged, too nonchalantly. "Probably someone from work. You know how it is with clients." I nodded, but inside, my doubt was growing. Grant's family was wealthy, with a legacy steeped in power and control. I'd always felt a bit like an outsider, especially around his father, Walter, who had this way of making everyone feel small. But Grant had always been my anchor in that world. Now, that anchor felt like it was slipping away. Later that night, as he slept beside me, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. My mind was a storm of questions. Was this just a misunderstanding? Or was there something more, something dangerous, lurking beneath the surface? I thought of Hazel, our niece, who had come to live with us after her parents, Clark and Fiona, passed away. She was a bright kid, too smart for her own good sometimes, and she had already been through so much. I couldn't let her get caught up in whatever this was. I had to protect her. The next morning, I decided to dig deeper. I started with Grant's office, looking for anything that might explain the photo. It felt wrong, like I was invading his privacy, but I had to know. As I sifted through papers, I found something odd, financial documents that hinted at a secret trust fund. It was a small discovery, but it felt like the tip of an iceberg. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed someone I could trust, someone who could help me navigate this tangled web. My mind immediately went to Nora, my best friend and confidant. She was pragmatic and no-nonsense, the kind of person who could see through the fog of emotions and get to the heart of the matter. As I closed the door to Grant's office, I felt a chill run down my spine. Whatever this was, it was bigger than I had imagined. And I had a feeling it was just the beginning. I glanced at my phone, the anonymous email still open. There was no sender, no trail to follow. But the message was clear. Look closely before it's too late. I was already in too deep to turn back now. The truth, whatever it was, had to be uncovered. For Hazel, for myself, and maybe even for Grant. The question was, how far was I willing to go to find it? The next morning, I decided to visit Hazel at Walter and Vivian's estate. It was something I did often, but today felt different, charged with a tension I couldn't quite place. As I drove up the long, winding driveway lined with perfectly manicured hedges, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into enemy territory. The estate was as imposing as ever, a testament to Walter's success and, perhaps, his need to project power. Vivian greeted me at the door, her smile as polished as the marble floors. "Mabel, darling, how lovely to see you," she said, her eyes scanning me with the precision of a hawk. I couldn't help but wonder what she was searching for. "Hi, Vivian. Is Hazel around?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "She's in the garden," Vivian replied, her tone clipped. "She's been spending a lot of time there lately." I nodded, making my way through the house. The air was thick with unspoken words, a tension that clung to the walls like dust. As I stepped outside, I spotted Hazel sitting on a stone bench, her face buried in a book. She looked up as I approached, her expression brightening. "Aunt Mabel," she exclaimed, setting the book aside and running to me. I hugged her tightly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. "Hey, kiddo. How's everything going?" I asked, pulling back to look at her. She shrugged, a shadow passing over her features. "It's okay, I guess. Grandma and Grandpa have been acting weird." I frowned, kneeling down to her level. "Weird how?" Hazel hesitated, glancing back at the house. "It's like they're always watching me, like I'm part of some plan I don't know about." Her words sent a chill down my spine. "Hazel, you know you can tell me anything, right?" She nodded, her eyes earnest. "I know. It's just, I miss Mom and Dad. And sometimes I feel like I'm just a piece in their game." I hugged her again, my heart aching for her. "You're not a piece, Hazel. You're family. And I'm going to make sure you're okay." As we sat there, I couldn't shake the feeling that the Quinns were up to something. The anonymous email, the photo of Grant, the secret trust fund, they all pointed to a web of secrets I was only beginning to unravel. Later, as I was leaving, I ran into Walter in the hallway. He was a tall man, his presence commanding even in silence. "Mabel," he said, his voice smooth but with an edge that always put me on guard. "How's Hazel?" "She's doing okay," I replied, meeting his gaze. "But she misses her parents." Walter nodded, his expression inscrutable. "We all do. It's been hard on the family." I watched him carefully, searching for any sign of the man behind the mask. "I hope we can all work together to make things easier for her." "Of course," he said, a hint of something. Was it sincerity or calculation? In his voice. Family is everything. As I drove home, I replayed the conversation in my mind. Walter's words seemed genuine, but there was something about his demeanor that made me uneasy. I had a feeling that whatever was happening, it was far from over. Back at home, I found myself drawn to Grant's office again. The financial documents I had discovered nagged at me, a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. As I sifted through papers, I stumbled upon something new, a list of transactions connected to a trust fund in Hazel's name. The amounts were staggering, far beyond anything I had imagined. This revelation threw everything into chaos. If Hazel was at the center of a financial scheme, it meant the stakes were higher than I thought. I needed to talk to Nora to get her take on all of this. That evening, I met Nora at a small cafe, the kind of place where you could talk without being overheard. As I laid out everything I had found, her expression shifted from concern to a steely determination. "Mabel, this is serious," she said, her voice low. "You need to be careful. If Walter and Vivian are involved, they won't take kindly to anyone interfering." I nodded, the weight of her words sinking in. "I know, but I can't just stand by and do nothing. Hazel deserves better." Nora reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "Then we'll figure this out together."
But you need to be smart about it.
"We can't let them know we're onto them." As I left the cafe, I felt a mix of fear and resolve. The Quinns were hiding something, and I was determined to uncover it. But the more I dug, the more dangerous it felt. I had to protect Hazel, and that meant taking risks I never anticipated. The question was, how far was I willing to go? And what would I find once I reached the bottom of this tangled mess? The days after my visit to the Quinn estate felt like walking on a tightrope. Every interaction with Grant was tinged with an unspoken tension, a dance around the elephant in the room. I was determined to protect Hazel, but the more I dug, the more I realized how tangled this web really was. Nora called me one afternoon with a lead. "Mabel, I think you need to hear this," she said, her voice urgent. I was talking to a friend who used to work in finance. They mentioned something about Clark and Fiona looking into Walter's business deals before their accident. A chill ran down my spine. "You think it's connected?" "I don't know, but it seems too coincidental to ignore," Nora replied. "Be careful, Mabel. This could be bigger than we thought." Her words echoed in my mind as I went through Fiona's belongings later that evening. I had avoided it for too long, fearing what I might find. As I sifted through her papers, my fingers brushed against something cold and metallic.
A key.
My heart skipped a beat. It was a small, nondescript key, but it felt significant. I knew Fiona had secrets, but this was a tangible link to whatever she had been hiding. The key was a promise of answers, but it also felt like opening Pandora's box. The next day, I decided to talk to Grant. I needed to know where he stood in all of this. As he sat across from me at the kitchen table, I could see the weight of his family's legacy etched into his features. "Grant, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I found something in Fiona's things." "A key." He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "A key to what?" "I don't know yet, but I think it might be important," I replied, searching his face for any hint of recognition or guilt. Grant sighed, rubbing his temples. "Mabel, you know how complicated my family is." "Complicated doesn't begin to cover it," I said, frustration creeping into my voice. "Hazel deserves to know the truth. We all do." He nodded, a shadow passing over his expression. "I know. I don't want to lose you over this." His words hung in the air, a confession of sorts. I reached across the table, taking his hand. "Then help me. Help me find out what really happened." As we sat there, I could feel the walls between us starting to crack, revealing the raw, vulnerable truth beneath. It was a small step, but it felt like progress. That evening, I decided to visit the bank and see what the key unlocked. As I stood in front of the safety deposit box, my hands trembled with anticipation and fear. I took a deep breath and turned the key. Inside, I found a stack of documents and a letter addressed to me. The documents detailed Walter's illegal real estate deals, a web of corruption that stretched far beyond what I had imagined. The letter, written in Fiona's familiar handwriting, was a plea for help, expressing her fears for her and Clark's safety. My heart pounded as I read her words, the enormity of the situation crashing down on me. Fiona had known the risks, yet she had tried to uncover the truth. And now, it was up to me to finish what she had started. I left the bank with a new sense of purpose, but also a growing fear of what might come next. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every turn a potential danger. Back at the house, I found Hazel in the living room, her face illuminated by the glow of her laptop. She looked up as I entered, a question in her eyes. "Hey, Aunt Mabel. Everything okay?" she asked, her voice tentative. I forced a smile, trying to mask the turmoil inside. "Yeah, just a long day." As I watched her return to her screen, I knew I couldn't let her down. I had to protect her from whatever darkness the Quinn legacy harbored. But with every step closer to the truth, the danger felt more real, more immediate. The stakes were higher than ever, and I was running out of time. The Quinns had secrets they would do anything to protect, and I was caught in the middle. But I couldn't turn back now. Not when Hazel's future depended on it. The question was, how much was I willing to risk to see justice served? And would I lose everything in the process? The days that followed my discovery at the bank were a blur of anxiety and determination. I felt like I was living on borrowed time, each moment a precarious balance between uncovering the truth and keeping Hazel safe. The documents and Fiona's letter weighed heavily on me, a constant reminder of the danger lurking within the Quinn family. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table, poring over the documents once again, Grant walked in. His face was drawn, shadows under his eyes hinting at sleepless nights. He hesitated at the doorway, as if unsure of his place in the room. "Mabel, we need to talk," he said finally, his voice tinged with a weariness that mirrored my own. I looked up, meeting his gaze. "About what?" He pulled out a chair and sat down, his hands fidgeting with a pen. "I know about the trust fund. I found out about it a while ago, but I didn't know how to tell you." His admission hit me like a punch to the gut. "You knew? And you didn't say anything?" Grant sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I thought I could handle it on my own. I didn't want to drag you into this mess." I watched him, trying to gauge his sincerity. "What else are you hiding, Grant?" He hesitated, the silence stretching between us like a chasm. "Walter's been grooming Hazel to take over someday. He wants to secure the family legacy through her." The revelation was a sucker punch. Hazel as the heir to Walter's empire? It was a future I hadn't considered, and one I wasn't sure she wanted. "Does Hazel know?" "No," Grant replied, his voice heavy with regret. "And I don't think she should. Not yet." I nodded, my mind racing with the implications. Hazel was just a child, thrust into a world of power and manipulation. I couldn't let her be used as a pawn in Walter's game. The next day, I met Nora for coffee, needing her pragmatic perspective. As I recounted Grant's confession, her expression shifted from concern to determination. "Mabel, this changes everything. You need to get Hazel out of there before Walter tightens his grip," Nora said, her voice firm. I nodded, the weight of her words settling over me. "But how? Walter's influence is everywhere." Nora leaned in, her eyes sharp. "We need leverage. Something that will force Walter to back off." Her suggestion lingered in my mind as I drove home. I knew I had to act, but the path forward was fraught with uncertainty. The Quinns were powerful, and I was just one person trying to protect Hazel from a legacy she never asked for. That evening, as I sat with Hazel, I watched her laugh at something on her laptop, her innocence a stark contrast to the storm brewing around her. I knew I had to shield her from the darkness threatening to engulf us both. The next morning, I received a call from an unknown number. My heart raced as I answered, half expecting another anonymous tip. But the voice on the other end was familiar. "Mabel, it's Vivian," she said, her tone clipped. "We need to talk." I agreed to meet her, curiosity and apprehension mingling in my chest. As I arrived at the estate, Vivian met me in the drawing room, her demeanor as polished as ever. "Mabel, I know you've been digging into family matters," she began, her eyes narrowing. "But you must understand, everything we do is for the family's future." I met her gaze, unflinching. "And what about Hazel's future? Does she get a say in any of this?" Vivian's expression softened, a rare vulnerability breaking through her usual facade. "I care for Hazel, truly. But Walter is set in his ways. He believes this is what's best." Her words hung in the air, a confession wrapped in justification. It was clear Vivian was caught between loyalty and love, a struggle I knew all too well. As I left the estate, I realized the power dynamics were shifting. Vivian's uncertainty was a crack in Walter's armor, a potential ally in my fight for Hazel. But the path ahead was still uncertain, and every step felt like walking through a minefield. The stakes had never been higher, and I knew I had to act fast. Walter's plans for Hazel were a threat I couldn't ignore, and the clock was ticking. But with every revelation, my resolve grew stronger. I would protect Hazel, no matter the cost. The question was, could I outmaneuver Walter before it was too late? And what would be the price of victory in a game where the rules were constantly changing? With each passing day, the pressure mounted like a storm ready to break. The documents I had uncovered were a ticking time bomb, and I knew I had to act before the Quinns found a way to silence me. Every glance over my shoulder felt like a reminder that I was being watched, and every shadow seemed to whisper of danger. One evening, as I sat in the living room, the tension between Grant and me was palpable. He paced the floor, a caged energy simmering beneath his calm exterior. I could tell he was wrestling with his own demons, caught between loyalty to his family and the need to protect Hazel. "Mabel, we need to decide what to do next," he said, finally breaking the silence. His voice was steady, but there was an urgency in his eyes. I nodded, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. "We can't let Walter get away with this, but we need to be smart about it." Grant paused, his gaze fixed on the floor. "What if we go to the authorities? Hand over the documents and let them handle it." The suggestion hung in the air, tempting in its simplicity. But I knew it wasn't that easy. Walter's influence was far-reaching, and a misstep could put Hazel in more danger. And what if Walter finds out before we can? He'll do anything to protect himself. Grant's jaw tightened, frustration evident in the set of his shoulders. "Then what do? We can't just sit here and wait for him to make the next move." I stood up, the restlessness propelling me into action. "We need leverage. Something that will force Walter to back off." As I spoke, an idea took shape, a risky plan that could turn the tide in our favor. But it was a gamble, and the stakes were higher than ever. I glanced at Hazel, who was sprawled on the couch with her headphones on, oblivious to the storm raging around her. "We need to get Hazel out of here," I said, my voice firm with resolve. "Somewhere safe, where Walter can't reach her." Grant nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. "I know a place. A cabin upstate. It's secluded and no one knows about it." The plan was set, but the execution was fraught with risk. We had to act quickly before Walter caught wind of our intentions. As the evening wore on, I packed a bag for Hazel, my hands shaking with the enormity of what we were about to do. The next morning, as we prepared to leave, there was a knock at the door. My heart leapt into my throat, fear and anticipation mingling in my chest. Grant opened the door to reveal Vivian, her expression a mix of concern and determination. "Mabel, Grant, we need to talk," she said, her voice urgent. "Walter's planning something. I don't know what, but you need to be careful." Her warning was unexpected, a glimmer of hope in the midst of chaos. "Vivian, we need your help," I said, seizing the opportunity. "We need to get Hazel to safety." Vivian hesitated, the conflict visible in her eyes. "I want to help, but if Walter finds out..." "We'll handle Walter," Grant interjected, his voice steady. "But Hazel needs to be away from here." Vivian nodded, a decision made. "I'll stall Walter. Give you time to get away." With Vivian's help, we had a chance. But as we loaded Hazel into the car, a new fear gripped me. What if this wasn't enough? What if Walter's reach extended further than we imagined? As we drove away from the house, the gravity of our actions settled over me. We were crossing a line, stepping into a world where the rules were dictated by power and influence. But for Hazel's sake, it was a risk we had to take. The road stretched out before us, a path fraught with uncertainty and danger. But with each mile, my resolve hardened. I would do whatever it took to protect Hazel, even if it meant confronting the darkness within the Quinn family. The question was, how far would Walter go to maintain his empire? And could we outmaneuver him before it was too late? The drive upstate was tense, the silence in the car heavy with unspoken fears. Hazel sat in the back seat, headphones on, oblivious to the gravity of our escape. Grant's grip on the steering wheel was tight, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. I watched the trees blur past, each mile feeling like a small victory against the storm we were fleeing. But as we neared the cabin, a sense of unease settled over me. We were stepping into the unknown, leaving behind the safety of familiarity for a refuge that felt both promising and perilous. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that Walter's reach extended further than we imagined. When we finally arrived, the cabin stood silent and secluded, surrounded by dense woods that offered both protection and a sense of isolation. Hazel bounded out of the car, eager to explore, while Grant and I unloaded the bags, our movements synchronized by necessity rather than comfort. As night fell, the weight of our situation pressed down on me. The cabin was a temporary sanctuary, but it couldn't shield us from the reality waiting beyond its walls. The documents I had found were a ticking time bomb, and Walter wouldn't rest until he regained control. Later, as Hazel slept upstairs, Grant and I sat in the dimly lit living room, the shadows casting long, looming shapes on the walls. The silence between us was thick, filled with the tension of unresolved questions and unspoken fears. "We can't stay here forever," I said finally, my voice breaking the quiet. "Walter won't stop until he finds us." Grant nodded, his expression grim. "I know, but we need time to figure out our next move." I leaned back, exhaustion tugging at my bones. What if we don't have time? What if he's already closing in? Grant's gaze met mine, a flicker of determination in his eyes. "We'll figure it out. We have to." His words were meant to reassure, but they only highlighted the precariousness of our situation. We were outmatched, a small family against a powerful empire, and the odds felt insurmountable. The next morning, a knock at the door shattered the fragile peace we had found. My heart leapt into my throat as I opened it, half expecting to see Walter's men. Instead, it was Nora, her face drawn with urgency. "Mabel, you need to know something," she said, stepping inside. "Walter's filed a missing persons report. He's using it to track you down." The revelation hit me like a punch, the walls of our sanctuary closing in. "How long do we have?" "Not long," Nora replied, her voice laced with worry. "You need to move, and fast." As we scrambled to pack, the gravity of our situation became painfully clear. Walter was closing in, and our options were dwindling. Every plan we had seemed to unravel, leaving us with nothing but desperation and a dwindling sense of hope. In the chaos, Hazel approached me, her eyes wide with confusion. "Aunt Mabel, what's happening? Why are we leaving?" I knelt down, forcing a smile. "We're going on adventure, sweetie. Somewhere safe." Her brow furrowed, skepticism in her gaze. "But why do we have to hide?" Her question pierced through my resolve, a reminder of the innocence we were trying to protect. "Because we love you, Hazel, and we want to keep you safe." As we loaded the car once more, the reality of our situation settled over me like a heavy cloak. We were running out of time, and the path forward was shrouded in uncertainty. But just as we were about to leave, the sound of an approaching car stopped us in our tracks. My heart pounded as a black sedan pulled up, the driver's door opening to reveal Walter, his expression as unyielding as ever. Mabel, Grant, he said, his voice carrying a weight of authority. We need to talk. His presence was a final twist, a reminder of the power he wielded and the danger we faced. As he approached, I felt the last threads of our plan unraveling, leaving us exposed and vulnerable. The confrontation was inevitable, and as Walter stood before us, I realized that our fight was far from over. We were at our lowest point, with everything to lose and no clear path to victory. The question was, how far were we willing to go to protect Hazel? And in the face of such overwhelming odds, could we find a way to turn the tide? Walter stood before us, his presence as commanding as ever, but there was an edge to his demeanor that hinted at desperation. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the clearing, and I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on me. This was it, the confrontation I had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. Mabel, Grant, Walter began, his voice smooth but carrying an undercurrent of steel. I understand your concerns, but this isn't the way to handle things. Grant stepped forward, his posture tense. And what is the way, Walter? To let you control Hazel's life, like you did with Clark and me? Walter's eyes flickered with something akin to regret, but he quickly masked it with resolve. I only want what's best for the family. And what about what's best for Hazel? I interjected, my voice firm. She deserves a future of her choosing, not one dictated by your ambitions. Walter's gaze shifted to me, his expression unreadable. You don't understand the pressures of maintaining a legacy. The sacrifices needed. I shook my head, frustration boiling over. Sacrifices? You mean like Fiona and Clark? How many more lives are you willing to ruin for the sake of your empire? Walter's face hardened, but there was a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. I never intended for things to go this far. But once you're in, it's hard to get out. The admission hung in the air, a crack in the armor of the man who had always seemed unbreakable. But I couldn't afford to let sympathy cloud my judgment. Not now. Then step aside, Walter, Grant said, his voice steady. Let us handle things. Let Hazel have the life she deserves. Walter hesitated, the weight of his past decisions visible in the lines etched on his face. And what if I refuse? The question was a challenge, a final test of our resolve. But before I could respond, Vivian appeared, her presence a calming counterpoint to Walter's intensity. Walter, please, she said softly, placing a hand on his arm. We've lost too much already. Let them go. Walter looked at her, a silent conversation passing between them. For a moment, it seemed as if he might relent, but then his gaze hardened once more. No, he said, his voice firm. I can't let everything I've built fall apart. The words were a catalyst, igniting the tension that had been simmering beneath the surface. But just as the situation seemed poised to spiral out of control, Hazel stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chaos with surprising clarity. Grandpa, stop, she said, her eyes wide but determined. I don't want to be a part of this. I just want to be a kid. Her words were simple but powerful, a reminder of what truly mattered. Walter's expression faltered, and for the first time, I saw the man behind the facade, a grandfather torn between ambition and love. The moment stretched, the air thick with anticipation. But then, unexpectedly, Walter sighed, the fight leaving him. All right, he said quietly, the word carrying the weight of a lifetime of regrets. All right. The tension in the air dissipated, replaced by a fragile sense of relief. Walter's decision was a turning point, a step toward healing the rift that had torn our family apart. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the clearing in twilight, I felt a sense of closure settling over me. The battle was over, and though the path ahead was uncertain, it was one we would navigate together. The confrontation had brought us face to face with the core themes of our journey: revenge, justice, and the power of family. In the end, it was love and understanding that had prevailed, offering a glimmer of hope for the future. As we turned to leave, Walter called out, his voice carrying a note of vulnerability I had never heard before. Mabel, Grant, thank you. His gratitude was unexpected, a testament to the change that had begun to take root. And as we walked away, I knew that though the road ahead would be challenging, we were no longer alone. Together, we would forge a new path, one defined not by the shadows of the past, but by the promise of a brighter future. The days following the confrontation with Walter were a whirlwind of change and reflection. The cabin, once a temporary refuge, now felt like the beginning of a new chapter. As we settled back into our lives, I could sense the shift in the air, a lightness that had been absent for too long. Walter kept his word, stepping down and transferring control of the family assets to Grant. It was a decision that surprised many, but it was a testament to the impact of our confrontation. The empire Walter had built was now in the hands of someone determined to use it for good. One afternoon, as the sun cast a warm glow over the garden, I found Hazel sitting under a tree, her laptop balanced on her knees. She looked up as I approached, a smile lighting up her face. "Aunt Mabel, look," she exclaimed, pointing to the screen. "I'm designing a website for a school project." Her enthusiasm was infectious, and I couldn't help but smile back. "That's amazing, Hazel. You're really talented." She shrugged, a hint of pride in her eyes. "I want to do something that helps people, like you and Uncle Grant." Her words touched something deep within me, a reminder of why we had fought so hard. Hazel's future was hers to shape, free from the shadows of the past. Later, as Grant and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, the silence between us was comfortable, filled with the unspoken understanding of what we had overcome. "You did it," Grant said softly, his gaze on the horizon. "You protected Hazel and changed everything." I shook my head, a smile playing on my lips. "We did it. Together." He reached for my hand, his touch grounding me in the moment. "I've been thinking about what comes next, how we can make things right." His words were a promise, a commitment to the path we had chosen. The legacy Walter had left was complex, but it was also an opportunity to build something new, something better. As the days turned into weeks, we worked to secure Hazel's trust fund, ensuring her future was safe and independent. Walter's decision to step back had set a ripple effect in motion, one that allowed us to redefine what family meant. Vivian, too, found her place in this new world. She visited often, her presence a reminder of the strength that lay in unity. The past couldn't be changed, but it could be learned from, and she was determined to be a part of Hazel's life in a way that mattered. One evening, as I sorted through the last of Fiona's belongings, I came across a letter I hadn't noticed before. It was addressed to me, written in Fiona's familiar script. "Mabel, if you're reading this, it means you've uncovered the truth," it began. "I always believed in the power of family to heal and transform. Protect Hazel, and remember that love is stronger than any legacy." Her words were a balm to my soul, a reminder of the journey we had taken and the strength we had found in each other. As I sat there, the letter in my hands, I realized that our story was one of redemption and transformation. We had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, guided by love and the promise of a brighter future. But even as we moved forward, a lingering question remained. What would we do with the power now in our hands? The answer lay not in the past, but in the choices we made each day, in the commitment to use our influence for good. In the end, the journey had been about more than just justice or revenge. It was about finding our way back to each other, about forging a path defined by love and resilience. As the sun set on our new life, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, united by the bonds we had fought so hard to protect. And as Hazel joined us on the porch, her laughter ringing out into the evening, I knew that we had found something precious, a family bound not by secrets or power, but by the simple, enduring truth of love.
The envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. No return address, just my name written in neat block letters. I'd found it mixed in with the usual bills and junk mail, but something about it made my stomach clench. My name is Margot, and until that moment, I thought I had everything figured out. Successful furniture business, beautiful 5-year-old twin daughters, and a husband who, despite his occasional moodiness, seemed devoted to our family. Funny how one piece of paper can shatter your whole reality. I waited until Sophie and Lily were absorbed in their afternoon cartoons before opening it. My hands trembled slightly as I slid my finger under the flap. A single photograph fell onto the counter, face down. There was a note too, typed in plain text: "Thought you should know what your husband does on his business trips to Chicago." The photo showed Liam sitting at a dimly lit restaurant, leaning close to a woman I'd never seen before. Her hand rested on his arm, fingers curled intimately around his wrist. The timestamp in the corner was from 3 weeks ago, when he'd told me he was closing a major real estate deal. "Mommy, can we have apple slices?" Sophie's voice made me jump. I quickly stuffed the photo and note back into the envelope, forcing a smile. "Of course, sweetie. Go back to watching TV with your sister. I'll bring them in a minute." My phone buzzed, speaking of the devil. Liam's text read, "Stuck in traffic. Don't wait up for dinner." I stared at his message, remembering how he'd been stuck in traffic a lot lately. The signs had been there: late nights at the office, mysterious phone calls he'd take outside, the way he'd grown distant over the past few months. I'd brushed it all off, telling myself I was being paranoid. The girls' laughter drifted in from the living room, and my chest tightened. They were too young to understand why Daddy wasn't home for dinner again. Too innocent to know that their perfect little world might be built on lies. I pulled out my phone again, fingers hovering over Zoe's number. My best friend would tell me to confront him immediately, demand answers. But something held me back. If Liam was hiding this, what else didn't I know? The doorbell rang, making me flinch. Through the peephole, I saw Helen, my mother-in-law, standing there with her usual rigid posture. Perfect timing, as always. "Margot, dear," she said as I opened the door, air kissing my cheek. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by to see my granddaughters. Her eyes swept past me, searching the house. "Is Liam home?" "Traffic," I said shortly, watching her face for any reaction. Did she know? Had she always known? Again? She clicked her tongue. "That boy works too hard." But then, the Donovan men have always been dedicated providers. She paused, giving me that familiar look. "Speaking of Donovans, have you and Liam given any thought to trying again? For a boy this time?" I felt the envelope burning a hole in my back pocket. "Actually, Helen, now isn't a good time. The girls need their dinner, and I have some work to finish." She pressed her lips together, clearly disappointed. "Of course, dear. Just remember, the Donovan name needs to be carried on." "Yes, I know." I closed the door perhaps a bit too firmly, leaning against it as her footsteps faded away. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Liam: "Love you. Kiss the girls goodnight for me." I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled out the photograph again, studying the woman's face. She was younger than me, probably late 20s, with an artistic vibe about her. Everything I wasn't. The sound of small feet padding into the kitchen snapped me back to reality. "Mommy?" Lily called. "Where are our apple slices?" I tucked the envelope away, my mind already forming a plan. "Coming, sweetheart. Mommy just needs to make a few calls first." I waited up for Liam that night, the envelope burning a hole in my pocket as I sat in our darkened kitchen. The twins were finally asleep after 3 bedtime stories and countless questions about why Daddy missed dinner again. The clock on the microwave read 11:43 when I heard his key in the door. "You're still up?" He smiled, that easy smile that used to make my heart flutter. Now it just made my stomach turn. "I thought I told you not to wait. We need to talk." I pulled out the envelope and placed it on the counter between us. His expression didn't change as he loosened his tie. "Can it wait until morning? I'm exhausted." No, it can't. I slid the photograph across the granite countertop. Who is she, Liam? He barely glanced at it. A client. Where did you get this? A client who holds your wrist like that? My voice cracked slightly. Don't insult my intelligence. Liam ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd once found endearing. You're being paranoid, Margot. It was a business dinner. Riley's an interior designer I'm working with on the Chicago project. Riley. He'd given her a name without meaning to. I filed that away. The same project that was supposed to close 3 weeks ago? I watched his face carefully. The one you said was finished? Things got complicated. He moved toward the refrigerator, his back to me. You know how these deals are. Sometimes they take longer than expected. The casual way he lied made me wonder how many other lies I'd swallowed over the years. Helen stopped by today. His shoulders tensed. What did my mother want? The usual. Wondering when we're going to try for her precious grandson. I laughed, but it came out hollow. Funny timing, don't you think? He turned around, his expression hardening. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just wondering if maybe you've found someone else to give her what she wants. Jesus, Margot. He slammed the refrigerator door. You're turning a business dinner into some kind of soap opera. Is this because I've been working late? Because I'm trying to provide for our family? Are you providing for another family too? The words hung in the air between us. Something flickered across his face, guilt? Fear? Before he masked it with anger. I'm not having this conversation. He grabbed his keys. You're clearly not thinking straight. Where are you going? To a hotel. Call me when you're ready to be rational. I followed him to the front door. The girls will ask where you are in the morning. He paused, hand on the doorknob. Tell them. Tell them Daddy had an early meeting. Another lie to add to the pile? He didn't answer, just walked out into the night. I watched through the window as his car disappeared down our quiet suburban street. My phone buzzed. A text from Zoe, everything okay? You've been quiet all day. I started typing, deleted it, started again. How do you tell your best friend your marriage might be imploding? Before I could decide, another text came through from an unknown number. Ask him about the money. A friend. My hands shook as I read it twice, 3 times. The money? What money? Upstairs, I heard small footsteps. Mommy? Sophie stood at the top of the stairs in her unicorn pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. I heard voices. Where's Daddy? I climbed the stairs and scooped her up, breathing in her sweet, clean scent. Daddy had to go to work early, sweetheart. Let's get you back to bed. But it's nighttime, she mumbled against my shoulder. I know, baby. I know. After tucking her back in beside her sleeping sister, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. If Liam was hiding something about money, there would be a trail. I just had to find it. The anonymous texter was right about one thing: this wasn't just about the woman in the photo. Something bigger was going on, and I was done being the trusting wife who looked the other way. 3 days of digging through bank statements and credit card bills left me with a migraine and a horrifying discovery. Our joint savings account, which should have held over $200,000, was nearly empty. The money had been bleeding out slowly over the past year, $5,000 here, $10,000 there, always in cash withdrawals. I was staring at the statements spread across my home office desk when Zoe walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. The girls are watching Frozen for the millionth time, she said, setting a cup beside me. Now, what's so urgent that I had to come over at 8 in the morning? I wordlessly pushed the bank statements toward her. Her eyes widened as she scanned the numbers. Holy shit, Margot. Where's all this money going? I don't know. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. But look at the pattern. The withdrawals always happen within days of his business trips to Chicago. Zoe sat down heavily. Have you confronted him? He came home last night, grabbed some clothes, and left again. Says he needs space until I calm down about the photo. I laughed bitterly. He doesn't know I've found this yet. My phone buzzed, another text from the unknown number. Check the safe in his office. Code is his mother's birthday. Who keeps texting you? Zoe peered at my phone. I don't know, but they've been right so far. I stood up. Watch the girls? I need to check something. Liam's home office was immaculate, as always. The safe was hidden behind a framed photo of our wedding day. My hands shook as I entered Helen's birthday, 0-6-1-9-6-3. The safe clicked open. Inside, I found a stack of papers that made my blood run cold. Loan agreements from places I'd never heard of. IOUs. A letter from something called Golden Palace Casino warning about outstanding debts. Find anything? Zoe appeared in the doorway. He's gambling. The papers trembled in my hands. He's gambling away our savings, Zoe. The girls' college fund. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Through the office window, I saw Helen's Mercedes in our driveway. Perfect timing, Zoe muttered. I shoved the papers back into the safe and hurried downstairs. Helen stood on our doorstep, looking more disheveled than I'd ever seen her. Where is he? She demanded, pushing past me into the house. He's not here. What's wrong? Don't play dumb, Margot. George got a call from the bank this morning. Liam tried to take out a loan against their house. Their house? Her voice rose hysterically. What has he done? The twins appeared in the living room doorway, drawn by the commotion. Zoe quickly shepherded them back to their movie. Helen, I think you should sit down. I will not sit down. This is your fault. If you'd given him a son like I asked, he wouldn't be acting out like this. Something snapped inside me. Acting out? Your precious son has gambled away our savings and is trying to steal from his own parents. But sure, blame me for not producing a male heir. Helen's face went white. You're lying. I stormed to the office and returned with the papers from the safe, throwing them on the coffee table. Am I? As Helen sank onto the couch, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Liam. We need to talk. Meeting Riley for lunch at Marino's. Come if you want the truth. My hands clenched around the phone. Riley. The woman from the photo. He was actually asking me to meet his mistress? What is it? Zoe asked, returning from checking on the girls. He wants me to meet him. And her. I looked at Helen, still staring shell-shocked at the evidence of her son's deception. You know what? I think I will. Margot, wait, Zoe started. No. I'm done waiting. I grabbed my keys. Stay with the girls? This won't take long. As I drove toward Marino's, another text came through from my anonymous informant. Be careful. There's more at stake than you know. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Whatever truth waited for me at that restaurant, I was ready for it. Or at least, I thought I was. Marino's was packed with the lunch crowd when I arrived. I spotted them immediately, Liam and the woman from the photo, sitting at a corner booth. She was even prettier in person, with an artistic flair that made my designer clothes feel suddenly stuffy and conventional. Riley stood as I approached, extending her hand. You must be Margot. I'm so sorry we're meeting like this. Her sincerity caught me off guard. I'd expected smugness or hostility, not this gentle awkwardness. Sit down, please, Liam said, his voice strained. We need to explain. Explain what? The gambling or the affair? I kept my voice low, conscious of nearby diners. Or maybe how you tried to take out a loan against your parents' house? Riley's head snapped toward Liam. What? You said the money was for our gallery. Our gallery. The words hit me like a slap. It is, Liam insisted, reaching for her hand. Margot, you don't understand. Riley and I have been planning to open an art gallery, she finished, pulling her hand away from his. With the investment money he promised. I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign. Investment money? Is that what he called it? Liam said he was investing his own money, Riley said slowly. From his real estate deals. There are no real estate deals. I pulled out the casino documents, sliding them across the table. Just gambling debts and empty accounts. Riley's face went pale as she read. These dates. This is when you said you were meeting investors in Chicago. I can explain everything, Liam started, but his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face went ashen. What now? I demanded. Nothing. Just work. He shoved the phone in his pocket, but not before I caught a glimpse of the text, payment due today or we go to the police. Show me the phone, Liam. This is ridiculous. I came here to explain about Riley, not to. The phone. My voice was steel. Now. A tense moment passed before he handed it over. The text was from someone named Marcus, last chance. Payment due today or we go to the police about the forged documents. What forged documents? Riley asked. Liam put his head in his hands. The loan applications. I used Dad's signature. The pieces clicked into place. That's why Helen came over. The bank called them about a loan they never applied for. I was desperate, Liam said. The casino was threatening to expose everything. I just needed time to make it right. By stealing from your parents? From our daughter's future? Riley stood abruptly, gathering her things. I can't. I need to go. Riley, wait, Liam reached for her, but she jerked away. Don't contact me again. She turned to me. I'm so sorry, Margot. I had no idea. After she left, Liam seemed to deflate. I love her, he said quietly. I know that's not what you want to hear, but... Stop. I held up my hand. The only thing I want to hear is how you plan to fix this before our daughters lose everything. I have a plan. A real estate deal that could. More lies? I stood up. You need help, Liam. Professional help. But I won't let you drag us down with you. My phone buzzed, another text from the unknown number. Check your business accounts. Now. Cold dread washed over me as I opened my banking app. The furniture business account was empty. Every penny gone. What did you do? I whispered, showing him the screen. I was going to pay it back, he said desperately. Just give me one more chance. I walked out of Marino's without looking back, my mind racing. The business account had held nearly $500,000, money for payroll, vendors, operating costs. Money that wasn't just mine to lose. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing. My phone buzzed one final time. Now you know everything. What are you going to do about it? What indeed? I hadn't expected to find George Donovan sitting alone on my front porch when I got home. He looked older than I remembered, shoulders hunched under his worn blazer. Unlike Helen's dramatic entrance earlier, his quiet presence felt more ominous. The girls are napping, Zoe said when I walked in. Helen left about an hour ago. She was upset. Her husband's outside. Zoe peered through the window. Want me to stay? I shook my head. I need to handle this. George didn't look up as I sat beside him on the porch steps. We sat in silence until he finally spoke. I knew about the gambling, he said quietly. Years ago, before he met you. Had to bail him out twice in college. My hands clenched in my lap. Why didn't you warn me? He promised he'd changed. And Helen. He sighed heavily. Helen wanted the marriage so badly. A proper daughter-in-law from a good family, someone to carry on the Donovan name. I was just a breeding mare to her, wasn't I? Helen's always been traditional. When you had girls instead of boys. He trailed off, looking ashamed. My phone buzzed. A text from my business partner, emergency meeting tomorrow. Vendors threatening legal action over bounced checks. He took everything, George. Not just your money or our savings. My business account too. George pulled an envelope from his jacket. Helen doesn't know I'm here. This is everything we have left in our retirement fund. About $50,000. I stared at the envelope. I can't take that. It's not for you. His voice cracked. It's for my granddaughters. Helen. She'll never admit it, but she loves those girls. Even if they're not the grandsons she wanted. Before I could respond, Helen's Mercedes screeched into the driveway. She stormed up the path, face contorted with rage. How dare you, she shouted at George. I checked the account. You withdrew everything. Helen, please. No. She turned on me. This is your fault. You drove him to this with your career and your independence. A proper wife knows her place. The front door creaked open. Sophie and Lily stood there in their matching pajamas, eyes wide with fear. Mommy? Lily's voice trembled. Why is everyone yelling? Girls, go back inside with Aunt Zoe, I said firmly, but Helen wasn't finished. You see? You can't even control your own children. No wonder Liam needed to find comfort elsewhere. Something snapped inside me. Enough. I stepped between Helen and the girls. You want to know why your precious son gambled away everything? Why he forged George's signature and emptied my business account? Because he's just like you, desperate to maintain an image that isn't real. How dare? No, how dare you come to my house and scream in front of my children? Your son stole from everyone who loved him, but somehow I'm to blame because I didn't give him a son? George stood up. Helen, we should go. Not without that money. It's gone, he said quietly. I gave it to Margot for the girls. Helen's face went white. You what? They're our grandchildren, Helen. Our only grandchildren. I want nothing to do with any of you, Helen spat, storming back to her car. George, are you coming? He hesitated, looking between his wife and his granddaughters. Something in his expression made my heart ache. Go, I said softly. But the girls' door will always be open for you. After they left, I found Zoe comforting the twins in the living room. Sophie looked up at me with Liam's eyes. Is Daddy in trouble? She asked. I sat down, pulling both girls onto my lap. Yes, sweetheart. But I promise, I'm going to fix everything. My phone buzzed again, the anonymous texter, there's one more thing you need to know. Check your email. Looking at my daughter's worried faces, I realized revenge wasn't enough anymore. I needed to protect what mattered most, no matter the cost. Zoe, I said, can you watch them a bit longer? There's something I need to do. The email from my anonymous informant contained a video. Security camera footage from the Golden Palace Casino, dated 3 months ago. I watched as Liam sat at a high-stakes poker table, Riley beside him, both laughing as he pushed stacks of chips forward. My business account chips, I realized with growing nausea. But it was the next clip that stopped my breath. Liam in a heated argument with a man in an expensive suit, Riley trying to pull him away. The timestamp matched the night of our daughter's 5th birthday party, the party he'd missed because of a work emergency. My phone rang. Riley's number. "I need to see you," she said without preamble. "There's something you should know." We met at a small coffee shop across town. Riley looked different, harder somehow, her artistic whimsy replaced by something darker. "I'm pregnant," she said as soon as I sat down. "And before you say anything, I didn't know about you or the girls when it started." I swear. The world tilted sideways. "How far along?" 4 months. She pushed a folder across the table. "But that's not why I called. These are copies of everything, the loans, the gambling debts, the threats. I've been keeping records." "Why?" "Because I realized he was playing us both. The gallery was never real, it was just a way to explain where the money was going." She laughed bitterly. "I thought I was helping him invest in our future. Instead, I was helping him launder money from your business." My phone buzzed. A text from Zoe, "Where are you?" "Liam's here. He's drunk and demanding to see the girls." "I have to go," I stood up quickly. "My daughters." "There's one more thing." Riley grabbed my arm. "The man from the casino? He's coming for his money tonight. All of it." I rushed home to find Liam on my front lawn, shouting at my locked door while Zoe tried to reason with him. "Where are my daughters?" he slurred when he saw me. "Safe. Away from you. I'd asked my parents to take them for the night, thank God. You can't keep them from me. I'm their father. The father who stole their college fund for poker chips?" I held up my phone, showing the casino footage. "Or the father who missed their birthday to get in deeper with loan sharks?" He lunged for my phone, but Zoe stepped between us. "Leave, Liam, before I call the police." "Go ahead." He spread his arms wide, laughing manically. "Call them. Tell them how she's keeping my children from me. Tell them." A black SUV pulled up, and 2 men in suits stepped out. My blood ran cold as I recognized one from the casino video. "Mr. Donovan," the larger man said smoothly. "We need to discuss payment." Liam's face went ash white. "Marcus, please. I just need more time." "Time's up." Marcus nodded to his companion, who opened the SUV's back door. "Either we get our money now, or we take a ride to discuss alternatives." "I can get it," Liam said desperately. "Margot, the retirement money your father-in-law gave you is gone," I lied, thinking of the envelope hidden in my desk. "I've already used it to save my business." "You bitch." He lunged at me again, but Marcus's partner caught him. "Wrong answer," Marcus said. "Let's go, Mr. Donovan." As they forced Liam into the SUV, he shouted, "This isn't over. Those are my daughters too." The SUV disappeared into the night, leaving me shaking on my front lawn. "Jesus, Margot," Zoe whispered. "What are you going to do?" My phone buzzed one final time. The anonymous texter, "Now you have a choice. Save him with George's money, or save your daughter's future. Choose wisely." I stared at the message, remembering Sophie and Lily's faces when they asked why Daddy missed their birthday. Remembering Helen's cruel words about proper wives. Remembering every lie, every betrayal, every moment I'd chosen to look the other way. "I'm going to do what I should have done months ago," I said, pulling out my phone to dial 911. "I'm going to protect what matters." But as I pressed the numbers, another text came through from Riley, "Don't call the police. There's something else you need to see first." Riley's text led me to a storage unit on the outskirts of town. She was already there, pacing nervously under the fluorescent lights. "I followed him here last week," she said, rolling up the metal door. After I realized what he'd done with the gallery money. The unit was filled with furniture, my furniture. Pieces from my showroom that had mysteriously failed delivery over the past year. But it wasn't just furniture. There were boxes of financial documents, multiple phones, and a laptop. He was selling it all under the table, Riley said. The furniture, the gallery scheme, the gambling, it was all connected. Marcus isn't just a loan shark. He's part of something bigger. I picked up one of the phones. That's why you've been sending me anonymous texts. She nodded. When I figured it out, I knew I had to warn you. But carefully. These people. They're dangerous. Headlights swept across the storage unit. A black SUV pulled up. Right on time, Riley muttered. Marcus stepped out, followed by Liam and another man. When they saw us, Liam's face contorted with rage. You set me up, he snarled at Riley. No, I stepped forward. I did. The police are on their way. They're very interested in where all my inventory disappeared to. Marcus laughed. Police? You really think? I think the FBI is even more interested, I cut in, holding up my phone. Especially in your money laundering operation. My anonymous friend here has been very helpful with documentation. You stupid bitch, Liam lunged forward, but Marcus held him back. The money, Marcus said calmly. Where is it? Gone. Every penny you thought you could squeeze out of my business is gone. I met his eyes. I transferred it all back this morning. Turns out my bank was very understanding about fraud. You're lying. Check your accounts, Riley said. I helped her trace everything through the gallery records. It's over, Liam. Sirens wailed in the distance. Marcus's calm facade cracked. Get in the car, he ordered Liam. Now. No. Liam's voice shook. Margot, please. Think about the girls. They need their father. They need security and truth, I said. Two things you never gave them. He reached into his jacket. I'm not going to prison. Everything happened at once. Riley screamed as Liam pulled out a gun. Marcus and his man dove for their car. And I thought about my daughters, about the life I wanted for them, about the truth I needed them to understand someday. Shoot me then, I said quietly. Show them exactly who their father is. His hand trembled. In the distance, red and blue lights flashed. You ruined everything, he whispered. No, Liam. You did that all on your own. The gun clattered to the ground as police cars swarmed the storage unit. As officers rushed in, I watched them handcuff my husband, the father of my children, the man I'd once loved enough to build a life with. Agent Carter, one officer nodded to Riley. Good work. I turned to her in shock. She gave me a sad smile. I'm sorry for the deception, she said. We've been tracking this operation for months. Your husband's gambling debts gave us our way in. She touched her stomach gently. Some parts weren't an act, though. I thought about all her anonymous texts, how they'd led me here, how they'd helped me protect what mattered most. The girls, I said suddenly. I need to get to my girls. Go, Riley nodded. We'll need your statement tomorrow, but for now, go be with your daughters. As I drove home, my phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number, you did good, Margot. Your daughters have quite a mother. I deleted the message, thinking about the story I'd someday tell Sophie and Lily. Not about revenge or betrayal, but about truth and strength, and how sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that save us. 6 months later, I stood in my newly renovated showroom, watching Sophie and Lily chase each other between the furniture displays. The store's grand reopening was tomorrow, and despite everything, we'd survived. No running, girls, I called out, though I couldn't help smiling. Their laughter echoed through the space, drowning out the lingering ghosts of the past year. The bell above the door chimed. George stood there, looking uncertain until the twins spotted him. Grandpa. They rushed to hug him, and for a moment, I saw tears in his eyes. I brought something, he said, pulling out a small package. Found it while cleaning out the attic. Inside was a wooden music box, intricately carved. Helen's grandmother made this, he explained. For her first daughter. But she only had Liam, so. It's beautiful, I said softly. Helen wanted me to tell you she's sorry. He shifted uncomfortably. She's been different since the trial. I nodded, remembering Helen's face in the courtroom as Liam was sentenced. 7 years for fraud and money laundering. The proud Donovan name, tarnished by her only son. The girls miss her, I admitted. They can visit if she'd like. But there need to be boundaries. She understands. He watched the twins examining the music box. You know, Liam asked to see them. My hands clenched instinctively. What did you tell him? That it's not his choice anymore. That some privileges, once lost, have to be earned back. The bell chimed again. Riley walked in, her pregnancy now obvious beneath her flowing dress. Sorry I'm late, she said. Morning sickness doesn't care about schedules. The FBI investigation had ended months ago, but Riley had stayed in town. We'd formed an unexpected friendship, bound by shared betrayal and eventual healing. Aunt Riley. The girls abandoned the music box to greet her. They'd taken to her immediately, unaware of the complicated history between us. I should go, my George said. Helen's waiting. He hesitated. The music box. It should stay in the family. With them. After he left, Riley helped me arrange the final displays while the twins played nearby. Have you decided what to tell them? She asked quietly. About their brother or sister? I watched my daughters, so innocent and resilient. The truth, eventually. That family isn't just about blood or names. It's about choices and trust. And second chances? She touched her stomach meaningfully. Some kinds, I agreed. The earned ones. Later that night, as I tucked the girls into bed, Sophie asked the question I'd been dreading. Mommy, is Daddy ever coming home? I sat on the edge of their bed, choosing my words carefully. No, sweetheart. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love you. Because he made bad choices? Lily asked. Yes. And sometimes, loving someone means letting them face the consequences of their choices. Like when we have to sit in timeout? I smiled, stroking her hair. Something like that. After they fell asleep, I found the envelope George had given me months ago, still unopened in my desk. The retirement money he'd tried to save us with. I'd never needed it, the business insurance and FBI recovery of assets had covered most losses. But I'd kept it, unsure why. Now I knew. Tomorrow, I'd open a new account, 2 actually, 1 for each girl. Not for college or emergencies, but for something more important, choices. So they'd always have the freedom to choose their own paths, unburdened by anyone else's expectations or mistakes. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, not Riley this time, but someone new. He's asking questions about the girls. Watch your back. I deleted it without responding. Whatever came next, we'd face it together, me and my daughters, stronger for what we'd survived, wiser for what we'd learned. The music box sat on their dresser, its melody faint but clear in the quiet room. Not a lullaby of revenge or regret, but of renewal. Of beginnings that come after endings, and the courage to choose them.
The phone slipped from my fingers, hitting the kitchen counter with a sharp crack. Those 3 little dots kept pulsing on Connor's screen, taunting me with their rhythmic dance. Someone was typing, deleting, typing again. I shouldn't have looked. Shouldn't have noticed the notification. Shouldn't have touched his phone at all. I'm Addison, and until 30 seconds ago, I thought I knew what trust meant. Mom? Everything okay? Chloe's voice drifted down from upstairs, probably hearing the clatter of the phone. Fine, honey. Just dropped something. My voice stayed steady, a teacher's practiced control. 16 years of marriage, and here I was, hands trembling over a text message that read, "Same time tonight? I'll wear that thing you like." The message disappeared before my eyes, deleted. Of course. Connor always was meticulous about covering his tracks. Even the way he arranged his shoes by the door, perfectly aligned, spoke of someone who liked things just so. Need help with dinner? Chloe appeared in the doorway, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, Connor's eyes staring back at me from her face. The similarity made my stomach turn. Actually, yes. I needed a witness, someone to ground me in reality. Could you chop these onions? She moved beside me, our elbows touching as we worked. The kitchen filled with the sharp scent of onions, masking the acid taste of bile rising in my throat. Dad working late again? Her knife tapped steadily against the cutting board. Bars busy on Thursdays. The lie came easily, practiced over months of similar conversations. But now the words felt like glass in my mouth. My phone buzzed. Connor. Traffic's terrible. Don't wait up. Chloe peered over my shoulder. Third Thursday this month. I looked at her sharply. She'd been counting. Mason noticed too, she added, scraping onions into the pot. He pretends not to, but he does. The front door opened, and Mason's backpack hit the floor with its usual thud. His footsteps dragged toward the kitchen, heavy with teenage exhaustion. Dad working late? He asked, reaching for an apple. Chloe's knife paused mid-chop. The silence stretched until I forced words through numb lips. Yes, honey. The bar's busy. Mason bit into his apple, eyes fixed on something distant. Weird. I walked past there after practice. Place looked pretty dead. The wooden spoon in my hand snapped. Both kids stared at the broken pieces. Mom? Chloe's voice was careful, measured. It's nothing. I tossed the splintered wood into the trash. Just old. Everything gets old eventually, doesn't it? Mason disappeared upstairs, but Chloe lingered, her presence both comfort and witness to my unraveling. You know, she said, voice low, Aunt Rachel mentioned this guy, Peter something. He's good at finding things out. Things people want to keep hidden. My hands stilled over the stove. Your aunt talks too much. Maybe. Chloe shrugged. Or maybe she talks just enough. I turned to face my daughter, really looking at her. When had she grown so perceptive? So strong? Sometimes, she continued, the worst part isn't what you find out. It's pretending you don't already know. The timer buzzed, making us both jump. Dinner would be ready soon, a meal for 3 instead of 4. Again. I picked up Connor's phone, still lying where it fell. The screen had cracked, a spider web of lines distorting his lock screen, our family photo from last summer's vacation. All of us smiling, none of us seeing the fractures already forming. Mom? Chloe touched my arm. What are you going to do? I placed the broken phone exactly where Connor always left it, aligned perfectly with the counter's edge. I'm going to serve dinner. And then I'm going to make a phone call. To Peter. To Peter. The decision settled in my chest like a stone. Because you're right, honey. The pretending has to stop. Peter's office smelled like old coffee and secrets. The leather chair creaked under me as I pulled out Connor's credit card statements, copies I'd made while he slept. My hands didn't shake anymore. That was new. These are from the last 6 months, I said, spreading them across Peter's desk. Notice anything? He adjusted his reading glasses, weathered fingers tracing the lines of numbers. The Chandler Hotel. Every Thursday. He glanced up. Expensive taste. We've never stayed there. The words tasted bitter. Not once in 16 years. Peter nodded, his silence more telling than words. I'd known him since before Connor, back when he'd helped my sister through her divorce. Now here I was, following her footsteps. My phone buzzed. Connor. Running late tonight. Business meeting. Of course you are, I muttered, switching the phone off. Have you confronted him? Peter gathered the statements into a neat pile. Not yet. The door opened, cutting me off. Jenna stood in the doorway, her college backpack slung over one shoulder. Uncle Peter, I brought those files you, oh. Her eyes widened. Aunt Addison. The room suddenly felt too small. Jenna, my niece, Connor's part-time bartender, the girl who'd practically grown up in our house, shifted uncomfortably. Just dropping off some paperwork, I said, too quickly. For the school fundraiser. Right. Jenna's laugh was nervous, high-pitched. I should go. My shift at the bar starts soon. Thursday night. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Must be busy. Something flickered across her face, guilt? Fear? She practically fled the office. Peter watched her go, his expression unreadable. That's interesting. What is? The bar's closed on Thursdays. Has been for months. Renovation work. The room tilted sideways. I gripped the edge of his desk, knuckles white. Connor told me. He said. I know what he said. Peter's voice was gentle. Question is, what are you going to do about it? My phone lit up again, Chloe. Mom, Dad's home early. He's asking questions about where you are. I stood, gathering the statements. I need proof. Real proof. Addison. Peter's tone made me pause. Be careful. Sometimes the truth is worse than we imagine. At home, Connor was in the kitchen, cooking. He only cooked when he felt guilty. Where were you? His smile was perfect, practiced. I tried calling. Parent-teacher conferences. The lie came easily now. You know how it is. He nodded, stirring something that smelled like garlic and deception. Jenna's coming for dinner. Thought it would be nice, family time. My heart stopped. Jenna? Yeah, she seemed upset earlier. Said she could use some family support. Chloe appeared in the doorway, her eyes finding mine. I invited Mason's friend over too. For support. Connor's spatula paused mid-stir. What friend? Jake. His dad's a lawyer. Chloe's voice was innocent, but her message was clear. She was building witnesses. The more the merrier, I said, matching Connor's smile with one of my own. Two could play at this game of perfect families. Later, as everyone gathered around the dinner table, I watched. Watched how Jenna wouldn't meet my eyes. How Connor's hand shook slightly as he passed the bread. How Mason kept looking between them, picking up on the tension none of us would name. So, Jenna, I said, cutting into my chicken. How's work at the bar? Good. She stabbed a piece of broccoli. Quiet on Thursdays. Connor's fork clattered against his plate. Chloe kicked me under the table, a warning or encouragement, I couldn't tell. Funny, Mason said, since it's closed for renovations. The silence that followed was deafening. Connor recovered first. Different sections, different days. You know how construction goes. But the crack was there, visible now. In his voice, in Jenna's rigid posture, in the way everyone at the table suddenly found their plates fascinating. I stood, gathering empty glasses. Who wants dessert? I made Connor's favorite. Actually, Jenna pushed back her chair, I should go. But you've barely eaten, Connor protested. Our eyes met across the table, and for a moment, I saw fear in his. He knew. He knew that I knew. Stay, Jenna, I said softly. Family should stick together, don't you think? The timer in the kitchen went off, shrill and insistent. Someone had to break first. It was just a matter of time. The Chandler Hotel receipt burned in my pocket as I walked through its marble lobby. Everything gleamed, the floors, the fixtures, the fake smiles of the staff. The kind of place that charged extra for secrets. "Can I help you?" The receptionist's nameplate read, "Sarah." "I hope so." I slid my driver's license across the counter. "My husband's been staying here." "Connor Walsh?" "I need a copy of his latest bill for our tax records." Sarah's fingers hesitated over her keyboard. "I'm sorry, but we can't." "Please." I leaned closer, lowering my voice. "I found charges on our credit card. If there's been fraud, I need to report it." Her expression shifted, sympathy, maybe recognition. She'd probably seen this scene before. One moment. She typed, then frowned. "That's odd. The charges are under a different name, but the card matches your husband's." My throat tightened. "What name?" "James Peterson." She turned the screen. "Room 412, every Thursday for the past 3 months. James Peterson. Connor's grandfather's name. The man he'd always said he wanted to honor." "There's a standing reservation for this Thursday," Sarah added. "Shall I print the details?" I nodded, numb. The printer hummed, spitting out paper that felt like sandpaper in my hands. My phone buzzed. "Peter. Got something. Meet me at the bar." The bar was dark, closed for renovations that showed no sign of progress. Peter waited in his car across the street. "Look at this." He handed me a manila envelope. Inside were photos, Connor entering the hotel, Jenna following 20 minutes later. Both carrying overnight bags. "When?" "Last Thursday." Peter's voice was gentle. "There's more." The next photo showed Connor at an ATM, withdrawing cash. Then at a jewelry store, emerging with a small bag. "The bracelet," I whispered. "The one Jenna had been wearing at dinner." "Addison." Peter touched my arm. "The hotel receipts, the jewelry, it's not the whole story. Look at the last photo." It was grainy, taken through a window. Connor and Jenna at a table, papers spread between them. One looked like a passport. "He's planning something," Peter said. "Something bigger than an affair." My phone lit up. "Connor. Working late again." "Don't wait up." I looked at the hotel reservation in my hand. 3 hours from now, room 412. I need to see that room. Peter's eyes widened. "Addison, don't. Sarah will help me." My voice sounded strange, distant. "She understands." The hotel key card felt heavy in my hand. Sarah had barely hesitated when I explained. Another woman who knew the taste of betrayal. Room 412 was pristine, waiting for its Thursday guests. I moved through it like a ghost, touching nothing, seeing everything. 2 water glasses by the bed. A forgotten hair tie on the bathroom counter. Jenna's brand. The closet door was ajar. Inside, a small safe stood open. Empty, except for a folded paper that had slipped behind it. My hands shook as I retrieved it. A bank statement from the Cayman Islands. Connor's grandfather's name again, but recent dates. Large deposits. My phone buzzed again. "Chloe, Mom, where are you?" "Dad came home, but left again. He's acting weird." Then Mason, "Mom, I heard Dad on the phone. Something about tickets." And finally Peter, "Get out of there. Now." Footsteps in the hallway. Keys jingling. I slipped into the bathroom, heart pounding. The door opened. "You're early." Connor's voice. Had to make sure everything was ready. "Jenna. Tickets are confirmed. Once the transfer clears next week, we're gone." What about Addison? The kids? A pause. They'll be fine. The divorce papers are ready. She'll get the house, enough money to keep quiet. She's not stupid, Connor. She knows something's wrong. By the time she figures it out, we'll be gone. 3 million buys a lot of distance. I pressed my hand against my mouth, stifling a laugh or a scream. 3 million. Our life reduced to a number. My phone buzzed silently. Peter again, police are on their way. Anonymous tip about fraud. Stay hidden. Through the bathroom door, I heard champagne being poured. Celebrations beginning. Endings too. I touched the bank statement in my pocket. Sometimes the worst betrayals aren't about the heart at all. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. In the other room, glasses clinked together in a toast to futures that would never come. The police station hummed with fluorescent lights and half-truths. I sat across from Detective Morris, the Cayman Islands bank statement between us, while Connor spent his first night in a holding cell. $3 million, Morris said, tapping the paper. That's a lot of renovation money. Funny how expensive lies can be. My voice didn't shake anymore. That should have scared me. Mrs. Walsh, we'll need you to sign these statements. He slid papers across his desk. But there's something else you should know. A knock interrupted us. Jenna stood in the doorway, wearing that damned bracelet. Her eyes were red, mascara smudged. I'm ready to talk, she said. Morris nodded. Have a seat. I stood to leave, but Jenna caught my arm. Stay. Please. You need to hear this. The bracelet glinted under the harsh lights. Connor's grandfather's name echoed in my head, James Peterson. A dead man's identity used to steal from the living. The money, Jenna started, then stopped. Swallowed. It wasn't just from the bar. Morris leaned forward. Go on. Connor. He's been running something bigger. The bar was just a front. She twisted the bracelet around her wrist. I thought I was helping with bookkeeping, but then I saw the real numbers. My phone buzzed. Chloe, Mom, there are people at the house. They're asking about Dad's business partners. Then Mason, Mom, they're taking Dad's computers. Mrs. Walsh. Morris was watching me. Your children are safe. We have officers there. Jenna's voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Aunt Addison. He said if I didn't help, he'd tell everyone about the accident. What accident? She pulled up her sleeve. Above the bracelet, a long scar traced her forearm. Last year, at the bar. A customer got rough. Connor. He handled it. Said he'd protect me, but then he started asking for favors. The room tilted sideways. Connor, my Connor, who color-coded his sock drawer and remembered every anniversary. Who apparently buried bodies and laundered money. The hotel meetings, I said, were for business. Jenna's laugh was hollow. The kind you can't do in broad daylight. Morris spread out more papers. We've traced connections to 3 other establishments. All using the same pattern. My phone lit up again. Peter, don't react. Connor made bail. His brother posted it. The brother we hadn't spoken to in 5 years. The one Connor said was trouble. Detective, my voice was steady, I need protection for my children. Already arranged. He gestured to an officer. We'll have someone escort you. No. Jenna stood abruptly. You can't go home. Connor has a backup plan. He always has a backup plan. The bracelet caught the light again, and suddenly I understood. It's not just jewelry, is it? She unclasped it, handed it to Morris. Look inside the links. The detective examined it under a magnifying glass. USB drives. Clever. Everything's there, Jenna whispered. Every transaction, every name. He gave it to me as insurance, but really it was a trap. If anything happened, I'd go down too. My phone buzzed one final time, an unknown number. You have no idea what you've started. Connor's voice, even in text, was perfectly controlled. Like his sock drawer. Like his lies. Detective, I stood, gathering my coat. I need to make a call. In the hallway, I dialed Chloe. Pack bags for you and Mason. Peter's coming to get you. Mom? Her voice was small. Are we ever coming back? I watched through the window as Morris bagged the bracelet, proof of both corruption and corruption's cure. Not until it's safe. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass. Not until I finish what your father started. Behind me, Jenna approached, her wrist bare where the bracelet had been. I want to help. For real this time. I turned to face her, seeing not my niece but a mirror, another woman trapped in Connor's web, looking for redemption. Then help me understand, I said. Everything. Because sometimes, the only way to end a story is to go back to its beginning. Even if that beginning was built on graves we never knew we were dancing on. Peter's safe house smelled like dust and old promises. I watched the surveillance feed on his laptop, my children asleep in the next room. On screen, Connor paced his office at the bar, phone pressed to his ear. The cameras were Jenna's idea, Peter said, adjusting the volume. She planted them yesterday. The audio crackled. Connor's voice filled the room. No, listen. The police don't have everything. The bracelet's just insurance. Yes, I know what happens if, don't threaten me. Jenna sat beside me, her bare wrist a reminder of what we'd given up. There's more coming. Watch. On screen, Connor's brother Marcus entered the frame. The prodigal son, returned at last. You promised this would be clean, Marcus said. Now the cops are crawling everywhere. Addison doesn't know the whole story. Connor's laugh was ugly. She thinks it's just about money and a cheap affair. Let her. My fingers curled into fists. Beside me, Jenna tensed. And the kids? Marcus asked. Leverage, if I need it. Connor straightened his perfectly pressed shirt. Addison won't risk them. The laptop screen cracked under my grip. Peter gently pried my hands away. Mom? Chloe stood in the doorway, Mason behind her. They'd heard everything. Go pack, I said. We're leaving. No. Chloe moved closer, eyes fixed on the screen. We're done running. On the feed, Connor pulled out a familiar leather notebook, my grandmother's diary, the one thing I'd saved from my childhood home. See this? Connor waved it at Marcus. Everything we need is in here. The old property deeds, the original contracts. Once we have those. The development deal goes through, Marcus finished. And the money. Gets cleaned through the construction. Perfect crime. My grandmother's land. The acres of forest she'd protected, that I'd inherited. That Connor had been trying to get me to sign over for months. He can't access it without your signature, Peter said quietly. No. I watched Connor slide the diary into his safe. But he can make me sign. Jenna stood abruptly. I need to go back. What? No. The word came out sharp. He trusts me now. Thinks I'm terrified of the police finding out about everything. She touched her scarred arm. I can get into that safe. It's too dangerous. But even as I said it, I knew she was right. Mason stepped forward, his quiet voice steady. Dad always said I was just like him. Maybe it's time to use that. What do you mean? He'll expect me to come home. The dutiful son, worried about his father. His smile was pure Connor. I can distract him while Jenna gets the diary. Absolutely not. But Chloe was already nodding. "I'll create a scene at school," she said. "He'll have to come deal with it. Administrative emergency, parent conference. You've all lost your minds." I looked at Peter for support, but he was studying the surveillance feed thoughtfully. "It could work," he said. "With the right timing." On screen, Connor opened another bottle of whiskey, his movements precise even in destruction. Just like everything else he'd torn apart. My phone buzzed. Detective Morris, Connor's brother, made some interesting calls. "You need to move. Now." Another message followed, "And Mrs. Walsh? Whatever you're planning, make it count." I looked at my children, seeing not victims but warriors. At Jenna, no longer the manipulated niece but a survivor seeking redemption. At Peter, who'd watched my sister's destruction and wouldn't let history repeat. "Tomorrow," I said finally. "We do it tomorrow." "And then?" Chloe asked. I watched Connor on screen, drinking to victories he hadn't won yet. "Then we take everything. Not just the diary or the evidence. Everything. Because sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about reconstruction, building something stronger from the ashes of what was burned." "Mom?" Mason's voice was soft. "Are we bad people for doing this?" "No, honey." I pulled him close, feeling Chloe and Jenna join the embrace. "We're just finally playing by his rules." On the laptop, Connor raised his glass in a silent toast, unaware that his perfect plan was about to meet its perfect destruction. The plan fell apart like everything else in my life, quickly and without mercy. I stood in Connor's office, my grandmother's diary clutched to my chest, while Mason lay unconscious on the floor. The cut above his eye still bled. "Sit down, Addison." Connor's voice was silk over steel. The gun in his hand didn't waver. "He's 14, I whispered. "He's your son. He's a liability. Like mother, like son." He gestured to the chair. "Now sit." Through the office window, I could see Jenna being led away by Marcus, her attempt to crack the safe having failed spectacularly. Chloe's diversionary tactic at school had only bought us minutes, not the hours we'd needed. The diary. Connor held out his free hand. "Unless you want Mason to wake up with more than just a headache." My fingers traced the worn leather cover. Inside were the property deeds, the contracts, my grandmother's legacy. And now, Connor's ticket to millions. "You never loved me, did you?" The question surprised us both. His laugh was familiar, yet strange. "I loved what you represented. The perfect wife, the perfect cover." He stepped closer. "Sign the papers, and this ends quietly. Like that customer at the bar. The one Jenna told me about." Something flickered in his eyes. "She should have kept her mouth shut. Like you kept quiet about the money laundering. The development deals. Careful, darling." The gun shifted toward Mason. "You're not the only one with evidence." My phone buzzed in my pocket. Peter's signal, the police were in position. I just needed to keep Connor talking. "Why Jenna?" The question had haunted me for weeks. "Because she was easy. Vulnerable. Just like you were, 16 years ago." His smile turned cruel. "Remember? The grieving teacher, so lost after her grandmother's death. So eager for someone to take control." Mason stirred, groaning. Connor's finger tightened on the trigger. "The papers, Addison. Now." I placed the diary on his desk, opened it to the marked page. My hands didn't shake as I picked up the pen. "That's my girl." Connor's voice dripped satisfaction. "Always so." The window exploded inward. Connor fired, once, twice. I threw myself over Mason as glass rained down. "Police. Drop the weapon." But Connor was already moving, grabbing the diary with one hand, shooting with the other. I heard Peter shout, heard returning fire. Then silence. I lifted my head. Connor was gone, taking the diary with him. Blood stained the carpet where I knelt, Mason's, mine, maybe both. Mom? Mason's eyes fluttered open. Did we get it? I helped him sit up, checking his wound. No, baby. We didn't. But I saw Jenna. He winced. Before Dad hit me. She had something in her hand. Peter burst through the door, gun drawn. Addison. Are you? He's gone. I pressed my sleeve against Mason's cut. He has the diary. Peter holstered his weapon, a strange smile playing at his lips. Does he? From his jacket, he pulled out familiar worn leather. My grandmother's diary. How? The one Connor took was a copy. Jenna appeared in the doorway, Marcus notably absent. We switched them last week. The real documents are safe. But the safe. My head spun. The plan was exactly what Connor expected. Peter helped Mason to his feet. So we gave him what he wanted to see. Through the broken window, sirens wailed. Connor would be running, thinking he had won. Thinking he had destroyed me one final time. Mom? Mason leaned against me. What happens now? I opened the diary, passed the property deeds to the last page. There, in my grandmother's handwriting, was a name I hadn't seen in years. A name Connor didn't know about. Now, I said, we finish this. For real. Because sometimes rock bottom isn't where you end. Sometimes it's where you finally see the truth, not just about others, but about yourself. And what I saw was crystal clear. Connor hadn't married a victim 16 years ago. He'd married a survivor. He just didn't know it yet. The Chandler Hotel's penthouse suite looked different in daylight. Colder. Like Connor's smile as he watched me enter, his fake diary still clutched in his hand. I wondered how long it would take you to find me. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Always the perfect host. Where's Marcus? Gone. With the money. Connor's laugh held no humor. Turns out betrayal runs in the family. I moved closer, noting the packed bags by the door. Like father, like son. Speaking of sons. He slid 1 glass toward me. How's Mason's head? My fingers itched to grab the crystal tumbler and smash it into his perfect teeth. Instead, I pulled out my phone, playing the video Jenna had recorded last year, the accident at the bar. Connor's expression didn't change as he watched himself push the drunk customer down the stairs. Watched Jenna scream. Watched himself stage the scene. Insurance, he said simply. Like everything else. Including me. Especially you. He closed the diary. Though I have to admit, you surprised me. All these years, I thought you were just convenient. Movement in the hallway caught my eye, Peter's signal. Everything was in place. The property deeds, I said. They're worthless without my signature. About that. Connor's smile widened. Remember our anniversary trip to Vegas? That contract you signed while slightly intoxicated? My blood ran cold. You didn't. Power of attorney. Limited, but enough. He pulled out another document. Everything transfers tomorrow. The land, the development rights, all of it. There's just one problem. I finally picked up the whiskey glass. You're reading the wrong diary. The door burst open. Detective Morris entered, followed by Peter and, most surprisingly, Marcus. Hello, brother, Marcus said. Sorry about the money. Had to make it look good. Connor's composure cracked. What? I opened my grandmother's real diary to the last page. Remember when you asked about my grandfather? The one who disappeared before I was born. Understanding dawned in his eyes as he read the name, James Peterson. Your grandfather's identity, he whispered. The one I used for money laundering, tax evasion, murder. Morris stepped forward. We have it all, Mr. Walsh. Including your Vegas paperwork. Forgery's a serious charge. Connor lunged for the balcony. I moved without thinking, years of suppressed rage finding their target. The whiskey glass shattered against his temple. He stumbled, fell. That's for Mason, I said. Peter and Morris moved to restrain him, but Connor was laughing through the blood. You think this changes anything? He spat. You're still the grieving teacher. The convenient wife. The perfect victim. No. Jenna appeared in the doorway, holding a familiar bracelet. She's the woman who taught me to stop being afraid. The USB drives hidden in the bracelet's links contained everything, every transaction, every threat, every carefully orchestrated manipulation. Including his confession from moments ago. You recorded. Connor's mask finally shattered completely. Like you taught me, Jenna said. Insurance. Morris read him his rights while Peter checked his restraints. Through it all, Connor kept his eyes on me. I did love you, he said quietly. In my way. I know. I gathered the real diary, the evidence of his crimes. That's what makes this perfect. What does? Knowing that for 16 years, you thought you were destroying me. I moved to the door. When really, I was learning how to destroy you. Mom? Chloe waited in the hallway, Mason beside her. Both stronger than I'd ever been at their age. It's done, I said. Behind us, Connor called my name one last time. I didn't turn around. Some endings don't need an audience. In the elevator, Mason touched the fading cut above his eye. Was it worth it? I looked at my children, at Jenna, at the family we'd pieced together from broken trust and shared survival. Ask me tomorrow, I said. Because some victories take time to feel real. And some scars need to fade before you can see them as battle wounds rather than weaknesses. But tomorrow was finally ours to decide. The courthouse steps felt colder than they should in spring. I watched Connor being led away in handcuffs, his perfect posture finally broken. He didn't look back. Neither did I. Ready? Peter held out my grandmother's diary. Inside the courtroom, the evidence had spoken for itself. The USB drives, the financial records, the video confession. But it was the diary that had sealed everything, my grandfather's identity, the original property deeds, the truth Connor had tried to steal. Almost. I turned to face the gathered press. They wanted their story, the betrayed wife, the corrupt businessman, the perfect family shattered. But that wasn't my story to tell anymore. Jenna stepped forward, her scarred arm now worn like a badge. I'll handle the statements. You don't have to, I said. I do. She squared her shoulders. For both of us. Mason touched the fading cut above his eye. Can we go home now? Home. Not the house Connor had chosen, with its perfect lawn and carefully arranged furniture. Something new. Something ours. Actually, Chloe pulled out a set of keys, my grandmother's old house keys. I have an idea about that. The property stretched before us, acres of forest Connor had tried to steal. The old house stood exactly as I remembered, waiting. It needs work, Peter observed. Good. I watched Mason wander toward the creek where I'd played as a child. We need something to build. Mom? Chloe's voice was hesitant. There's something else you should know. She handed me her phone. On screen was a message from Connor's brother Marcus. The money he stole from you, I found it. All of it. What do you want to do? Peter asked. I looked at my children, at Jenna, at the home that had sheltered 3 generations of survivors. I want to build something he can't break. The contractor arrived that afternoon. As she surveyed the property, I opened the diary one last time. Past the deeds and documents, past the evidence that had destroyed Connor's empire, to a letter I'd never shown anyone. Not even in court. My dearest Addison, my grandmother's handwriting flowed across the page. By the time you read this, you'll understand why your grandfather disappeared. Why I had to protect what was ours. Sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to fight back. Mom? Mason called from the creek. Look what I found. He held up a piece of sea glass, smoothed by water and time. Green, like his eyes. Like Connor's eyes. Keep it, I said. Some things are worth remembering. Even the bad stuff. Especially the bad stuff. I touched his healed cut. It shows us who we really are. Jenna joined us, her phone buzzing with interview requests. They want to know what happens next. Tell them the truth, Chloe said. Tell them we're building something. The contractor's estimate arrived, repairs, renovations, new beginnings. All funded by Connor's hidden accounts, now frozen and seized. Justice had a price tag, after all. There's one more thing, Peter said quietly. He handed me an envelope, divorce papers, already signed. Connor's final surrender. I didn't open them. Some endings don't need witnesses. Instead, I watched my family explore their new home. Mason by the creek, finding pieces of the past. Chloe on the porch, planning the future. Jenna with her camera, documenting everything Connor had failed to destroy. You know, Peter said, revenge usually leaves people empty. This isn't revenge. I picked up a piece of sea glass Mason had missed. This is reconstruction. The sun set behind the trees Connor had tried to sell, casting shadows that looked like possibilities. Tomorrow would bring contractors and questions, reporters and responsibilities. But tonight, in this moment, I held my grandmother's diary and my children's future in the same hands. And neither felt heavy anymore. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying what hurt you. It's in building something so strong, so beautiful, that the hurt becomes just another layer in its foundation. And we were already building.
I never thought my life would change because of a text message. But there I was, sitting in my car at a red light, smiling at my phone like an idiot. 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test, the photo I was about to show Travis. After 3 years of trying, we'd finally done it. My name is Sarah, and that moment of pure joy was the last one I'd have for a very long time. I remember everything about those few seconds. The way the afternoon sun hit my dashboard. The faint smell of the air freshener Travis always teased me about. The song playing on the radio, some pop hit about forever love that I used to roll my eyes at but suddenly felt perfect. The light turned green. I pulled forward, already imagining Travis's face when I showed him the picture. He'd been dropping hints about wanting kids since our wedding day. And his mother Irene had been not so subtly asking about grandchildren at every family dinner. I never saw the truck coming. The impact came from my left side, a violent explosion of metal and glass. The world spun and time seemed to stretch like taffy. I remember thinking absurdly that I needed to protect my phone so Travis could see the picture. When everything stopped moving, I couldn't feel my face. Warm liquid dripped down my neck, and somewhere far away, people were screaming. A man's voice kept saying, oh God, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." The words floated around me like leaves in the wind. "Ma'am, can you hear me? Don't move." A paramedic's face appeared in what was left of my driver's side window. "We're going to get you out." I tried to speak to tell them about the baby, but my mouth wouldn't work right. The last thing I remember before passing out was someone holding my hand and promising everything would be okay. They lied. I woke up 3 days later in the hospital. Travis was there, asleep in a chair beside my bed. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. I tried to reach for him, but my arms felt like they were made of lead. "Travis!" My voice came out as a whisper. He jerked awake, his eyes finding mine. For a split second, something flickered across his face, something that made my stomach twist. But then he smiled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hey, beautiful," he said, taking my hand. "You had us worried." I tried to smile back, but my face felt wrong. Stiff. Like it belonged to someone else. "The baby," I managed to say. "Is..." Travis's hand tightened on mine. "I'm so sorry, Sarah." His voice cracked. "The doctors did everything they could." I closed my eyes, feeling the world tilt beneath me. Through the fog of pain medication, I heard the door open and recognized Irene's perfume before she spoke. "Travis, honey, the doctor needs to speak with you." Her voice was soft, careful. "About the reconstruction options." "I'll be right back," Travis said, squeezing my hand before letting go. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to drift off. But I heard them in the hallway, their voices carrying through the partially open door. "She's going to need extensive surgery," Travis was saying. Her face. "Mom, I don't know if I can." "Shoo, darling. We'll figure it out. One step at a time." I lay there, tears sliding silently down my ruined face, as my husband and his mother discussed my future like I was a problem to be solved. In that moment, something inside me shifted. Something hard and cold took root where warmth and hope used to live. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment my old life ended. The moment Sarah Blake, loving wife, hopeful mother-to-be, eternal optimist, began to fade away. And something else, something stronger and darker, began to take her place. Coming home from the hospital felt like walking into someone else's life. Everything looked the same. Our modern suburban house with its perfectly manicured lawn. The welcome mat Travis's mother gave us as a housewarming gift, even the faint smell of Travis's cologne in the entryway. But nothing felt right anymore. "I've set up the guest bedroom downstairs," Travis said, carrying my bag. "The doctor said stairs might be difficult for a while." I noticed he wouldn't look directly at me. 3 weeks in the hospital and he still couldn't meet my eyes. "Thanks," I managed, touching the bandages that covered half my face. "I've invited Mom over for dinner," he added quickly. "She wants to help with your recovery plan." Course she did. Irene Blake never missed an opportunity to manage a crisis, especially one that threatened her son's perfect life. The guest room felt sterile, like a hotel suite. Travis had cleared out all my personal items from our bedroom upstairs, arranging them with mechanical precision. My makeup vanity, a cruel joke now, sat in the corner, mirror turned to face the wall. "Do you need anything?" Travis hovered in the doorway, phone in hand. "I have a few work calls to make, but I'm fine." I wasn't, but what was the point in saying otherwise? Irene arrived precisely at 6, armed with casseroles and opinions. I sat at our dining room table, watching her arrange flowers in a vase while Travis poured wine. "The doctors say the scarring might improve with time," Travis was saying, not looking at either of us. "Well, there are always options," Irene replied, her voice dripping with forced optimism. "I know an excellent plastic surgeon in the city. Very discreet." I pushed my untouched food around my plate. "The insurance won't cover cosmetic procedures." "Oh, darling." Irene reached across the table, patting my hand. "We have to think about Travis's position at the firm. Image is everything in corporate marketing." My fork clattered against the plate. "My face is an image problem?" "Mother," Travis warned, but Irene continued. "I'm just being practical. Travis has worked so hard to build his career. And now with the complications from the accident." She delicately dabbed her lips with a napkin. "Well, sometimes life forces us to make difficult choices." Complications? The word felt like acid in my mouth. "You mean losing the baby?" Travis's wine glass froze halfway to his lips. We hadn't discussed the pregnancy since the hospital. I hadn't told him I was planning to surprise him that day. Sarah, he started, but I cut him off. Did you tell her about the baby, Travis? Or just about your wife's ruined face? Irene's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat. A baby? Oh, Travis. It doesn't matter now, Travis said quickly, standing up. What matters is moving forward. Mother's right, we need to think practically. I looked between them, my husband who couldn't meet my eyes and his mother who couldn't stop staring at my bandages. Perfect son and his perfect mother planning my perfect rehabilitation. I think I need to lie down, I said, pushing away from the table. Of course, dear, Irene called after me. We'll figure everything out. In the guest room, I could hear their muffled voices through the wall. Poor thing, Irene was saying. But Travis, you're still young. There will be other chances for children once everything is settled. Mom, please. I'm just saying, you need to think about your future. Both of your futures. I touched the bandages on my face, feeling the rough texture of gauze where smooth skin used to be. In our wedding photos, Travis used to say I looked like an angel. Now he couldn't even look at me. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Mrs. Blake, my name is Graham Foster. I'm the father of the young man who caused your accident. Please, I need to speak with you. I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over the screen. Through the wall, I could still hear Travis and his mother planning my future without me. Something shifted in my chest, not quite hope, but something closer to purpose. I typed back a single word. When? I found Travis's whiskey bottle hidden behind the cleaning supplies under the kitchen sink. 3 weeks after I'd come home and already half empty. I might not have noticed if I hadn't heard him stumbling around at 3 a.m, talking on his phone in what he thought was a whisper. The bandages had come off yesterday. I avoided mirrors now, but I couldn't avoid overhearing Travis's late-night conversations. You should have seen the client's face today, he slurred to someone. Like that movie, you know? Two-Face from Batman. A pause followed by drunken laughter. I know. I shouldn't joke. But man, you try living with it. I stood in the darkness of our kitchen, holding his hidden bottle, and felt something inside me crack. The next morning, Travis acted like nothing had happened, kissing my cheek, the unscarred side, before leaving for work. Big presentation today, he said, adjusting his tie. Don't wait up. I waited until his car pulled away before going upstairs to our bedroom. I hadn't been up here since coming home, respecting Travis's unspoken wish to keep me out of sight in the guest room. Everything was exactly as I'd left it the morning of the accident, except for one thing. My old art supplies were missing from the closet. I found them in the garage, buried under Christmas decorations. The wooden box still had my name carved into it, a wedding gift from my grandmother. Inside, my brushes lay untouched, along with the expensive oils Travis had bought me when I'd mentioned wanting to take up painting again. You should focus on more practical things, Irene had said back then. Travis needs a wife, not an artist. I set up the easel in the guest room, facing the window. The morning light fell across my canvas as I mixed colors, muscle memory taking over. Red for anger, black for grief, yellow for the hope I used to feel. The brush moved almost on its own, creating something both beautiful and terrible. Hours passed. The front door opened and closed. Travis's footsteps paused outside my door. Sera? Mother's here for dinner. I didn't answer, adding another streak of red to the canvas. The door opened. Sarah, what are you? Travis stopped mid-sentence. What is that supposed to be? I stepped back from the painting, a woman's face, split down the middle. One side perfect and pristine, the other distorted and fractured, with a wine glass pressed to smiling lips. It's you, Irene's voice came from behind him. Or rather, what you've become. I call it Two-Face, I said quietly, watching Travis's face pale. Funny, right? I don't understand, he stammered, but his eyes gave him away. Don't you? I heard you last night, Travis. And the night before. And the night before that, Irene stepped between us. Now, Sarah, Travis has been under tremendous stress. If you just try to understand. Understand what? I turned to face them fully, watching them flinch. That my husband makes jokes about my scars? That he hides bottles around the house? That he can't even sleep in the same room as me anymore? That's not fair, Travis protested. I'm trying. To what? Keep up appearances? I gestured to the painting. Is this appearance better? Perhaps, Irene said stiffly. This emotional outburst is a sign you need professional help. I laughed, and the sound made them both step back. Professional help? Like that plastic surgeon you keep mentioning? The one who can fix Travis's image problem. Sarah, please! Travis reached for me, but I moved away. Don't worry, I said, picking up my brush again. I'm working on fixing everything. They left the room, whispering urgently to each other. I turned back to my canvas, adding the final touch, a text message floating in the background. Tomorrow at 2. I'll explain everything. Graham Foster. I stepped back, studying my work. In the painting, both sides of the face were smiling, but for very different reasons. Tomorrow, I'd meet the father of the man who destroyed my face. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, I had more painting to do. Cafe Graham Foster chose was exactly what I expected. Quiet, expensive, far from anywhere Travis or Irene might go. I wore a scarf wrapped partially around my face, drawing less attention than the medical mask I'd gotten used to wearing in public. Graham stood when I approached his table, and I immediately recognized the guilt in his eyes. I'd seen it in the mirror often enough lately, that look of someone haunted by what they couldn't change. Mrs. Blake, he said softly. Thank you for coming. Sarah, I corrected, sitting down. Your son, is he? In rehab. Graham's hands tightened around his coffee cup. Again. The accident happened after he left his third facility. I should have seen it coming. A waitress approached, hesitated when she saw my scarf, then plastered on a professional smile. I ordered black coffee, waiting until she left before speaking. Why did you want to meet? Graham pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table. These are brochures from the top reconstructive surgeons in the country. I've already spoken with Dr. Chen in New York. He's willing to take your case. I stared at the glossy pages, at the before and after photos of smiling patients. Insurance denied. I'm not offering insurance. Graham's voice cracked. I'm offering to pay for everything. It's the least I can do after what my son. Why? The word came out sharper than I intended. Because I failed him, Graham said simply. And in failing him, I failed you too. The money can't fix everything, but it can fix this. He gestured vaguely toward my face. I opened the brochure, studying Dr. Chen's credentials. Cost listed made my stomach clench, more than Travis made in a year. Your husband doesn't know you're here, Graham said. It wasn't a question. No. Good. He leaned forward. Because there's something else you should know. The night of the accident, my son wasn't alone in the car. My coffee arrived. I wrapped my hands around the hot cup, waiting. There was a woman with him. Someone's wife. Graham's voice was heavy with meaning. They'd been meeting at the Golden Leaf Hotel every Thursday for months. The Golden Leaf, where Travis had his weekly client meetings. The woman survived, Graham continued. No injuries. She left the scene before the police arrived. My son was too drunk to remember her name, but he remembered where she worked. He slid another paper across the table. Blake Marketing Associates. Coffee turned to acid in my stomach. You're lying. I wish I was. For both our sakes. Graham pulled out his phone, showing me a security camera image. A woman hurrying through a hotel lobby, followed by a familiar figure in a gray suit. Travis. Why are you showing me this? My voice sounded distant, even to myself. Because you deserve to know the whole truth. And because I'm offering you a choice. Graham tapped the brochures. Dr. Chen can do the surgery next month. He can make you look exactly like you did before. Or he can make you look like someone else entirely. Someone Travis and his friend wouldn't recognize. I thought about Travis's late-night phone calls, his cruel jokes, his inability to look at me. I thought about Irene's constant hints about divorce and fresh starts. Why would I want that? Graham's smile was sad but understanding. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's making them live with their guilt while you become someone new. Someone stronger. I touched my scarf, feeling the rough texture of the scars beneath. When does Dr. Chen need an answer? Take your time. Graham stood, leaving a business card beside the brochures. But remember, this isn't just about fixing what was broken. It's about choosing who you want to become. I sat there long after he left, staring at the security camera photo, at Travis's familiar profile next to an unfamiliar woman. Finally, I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Graham. I choose someone new. His reply came instantly. Welcome to your second chance, Sarah. I walked home slowly, planning what to pack, what to leave behind, and how to disappear without a trace. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's life. It's about rebuilding your own. New York felt like another world. Dr. Chen's private clinic occupied the top floor of a sleek Manhattan building, all glass and chrome and discretion. I told Travis I was visiting my aunt in Ohio for a few months of emotional healing. He seemed relieved to have an excuse not to look at me. The changes will be significant, Dr. Chen said, reviewing my file, but subtle enough to maintain natural features. The goal isn't to create a new person, but to enhance who you could have been. I studied the digital mock-ups on his tablet. The woman in the after images wasn't me, but she wasn't a stranger either. She was who I might have become in another life, one where Travis's mistress hadn't been in that car. How long until I can? I trailed off, unsure how to finish. Return? Revenge? Begin again? 3 months for full recovery. Dr. Chen's eyes were kind. Graham mentioned you're staying at his apartment during the recovery period? I nodded. Graham's Manhattan pied-a-terre had become my sanctuary, filled with his late wife's art collection. He rarely used it anymore, preferring his house in Connecticut. The first surgery was scheduled for tomorrow. Tonight, I sat in Graham's apartment, watching the city lights flicker like stars. My phone buzzed. Travis. How's your aunt? His voice was slightly slurred. Thursday night. Golden Leaf Hotel night. Fine. I touched the surgical consent forms on the coffee table. How's work? Busy. Listen, Mother wants to know when you're coming home. She's worried about appearances. Course she was. I imagined them together at their weekly dinner, discussing how to manage their damaged goods. I need time, I said, the lie coming easily now. To heal. Right. Well, take care of yourself. He hung up before I could respond. My phone buzzed again, a text from Graham. Ready for tomorrow? I started to type yes, but stopped when another message appeared. An unknown number. Are you sure you want to know the truth about that night? My hand shook as I replied. Who is this? Someone who was there. Someone who knows what really happened. Meet me at Riverside Park midnight. I stared at the message, my heart pounding. Could be a trap. Or it could be her, the woman from the hotel. The smart thing would be to ignore it. To proceed with surgery with my carefully laid plans. But something in me needed to know. At 11:45, I took a cab to Riverside Park. The night was cool, the Hudson River a black ribbon under moonlight. A woman sat alone on a bench, her face hidden by a hoodie. Mrs. Blake, she said as I approached. Or should I say, the first Mrs. Blake? She pushed back her hood, revealing a face I recognized from office party photos on Travis's desk. Sarah from accounting. He wasn't supposed to be there that night, she said quietly. At the hotel. He was following me, suspicious. When he saw who I was meeting. His client, I finished, the pieces clicking into place. She laughed bitterly. The client's wife. Travis caught us together. He was drunk, angry. Started making threats about exposing everything. That's when. When what? When he called his friend, the guy who hit your car. Asked him to teach his cheating client's wife a lesson. Follow her car, scare her a little. Sarah's voice cracked. But the guy was high, confused. He followed the wrong car. Yours. The world tilted sideways. Travis. Travis arranged the accident. Not yours. He never meant. She stood up, backing away. I just thought you should know. Before you disappear. I watched her hurry away, my mind spinning. All this time, I'd been planning to become someone new to escape Travis's betrayal. But he wasn't just unfaithful. He was the reason I'd lost everything. My phone buzzed. Graham. Surgery prep starts at 6 a.m. Are you ready? I looked at my reflection in the dark window of a passing car. Tomorrow, I wouldn't just become someone new. I'd become someone Travis would never see coming. Ready, I typed back. But we need to modify the plan. 3 months after my surgery, I stood outside our house in the rain, unrecognizable. My new face, beautiful but different, felt like armor. The divorce papers in my bag felt like weapons. I'd planned this moment carefully. Thursday evening, when Travis would be home from his client meeting at the Golden Leaf. When Irene would be over for their weekly dinner, planning their perfect future without their damaged goods. He still worked. I heard their voices from the dining room as I entered, Travis and Irene discussing me. The lawyers say if she doesn't respond soon, we can proceed with abandonment charges, Irene was saying. Really, Travis, it's for the best. That accident was a blessing in disguise. I stepped into the doorway, watching them freeze mid-conversation. Hello, Travis. He stared at me blankly, then with growing confusion. I'm sorry, who? I'm Claire Foster, I said, using the name Graham and I had chosen. Graham Foster's niece. I'm here about Serafina Blake. Travis's wine glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. Irene stood quickly, always ready to manage a crisis. Whatever this is about, we can discuss it privately. Can we? I placed the divorce papers on the table. Like you discussed arranging the accident that scarred your wife's face? Color drained from Travis's face. I don't know what you're talking about. Sarah from accounting does. I pulled out my phone, playing the recording from that night in the park. Travis's voice filled the room. Follow her car. Scare her a little. That's not. I never meant. Travis stumbled over his words. You never meant for it to be me? The words came out calm, controlled. Your pregnant wife instead of your client's cheating spouse? Irene gasped. Pregnant? Oh, he didn't tell you that part? I turned to her. About the grandchild you lost because your perfect son wanted to teach someone a lesson? Sera? Travis whispered, finally seeing past the new face to something familiar in my eyes. I pulled out one more document, a police report naming Travis as an accessory to the accident with Sarah's sworn statement attached. Sign the divorce papers, I said quietly. Or everyone learns what kind of man you really are. Travis lunged for the police report, but I stepped back. His foot caught the spilled wine and he crashed into the china cabinet. Crystal shattered around him as he fell. Travis! Irene rushed to help him up, but he pushed her away, blood trickling from a cut on his hand. You can't prove anything, he snarled, but his eyes were desperate. Can't I? I moved toward the door. Graham Foster's legal team would disagree. They're very interested in making amends for his son's part in this, especially now that they know who really orchestrated it. Wait, Travis called as I reached the door. Please. I'll sign. Just don't tell anyone. Like you didn't tell anyone about our baby? The words tasted like ashes. Like you didn't tell anyone about planning the accident? I loved you, he said weakly. No. I touched my transformed face. You loved what I looked like. There's a difference. I left the papers on the table and walked out into the rain. Behind me, I heard Irene's shocked sobs, Travis's desperate attempts to explain. My phone buzzed. Graham, is it done? I couldn't answer. The victory felt hollow, like ashes in my mouth. I'd gotten what I wanted, Travis's signature on divorce papers, his perfect life crumbling around him. But standing in the rain, wearing a stranger's face, I realized revenge hadn't filled the emptiness inside me. I walked to my car, past the spot where Travis used to park, where he'd kiss me goodbye each morning. Past the garden where we'd planned to build a nursery. Past all the dreams that had died the night he chose revenge over love. Another text lit up my phone, an unknown number. You're not the only one he hurt. There are others. We should talk. I sat in my car, rain drumming on the roof, staring at the message. I'd thought exposing Travis would be the end. But maybe it was just the beginning. Question was, how much deeper into darkness was I willing to go? The art gallery buzzed with Manhattan's elite, all here to see the mysterious new artist everyone was talking about. My paintings lined the walls, faces twisted in pain and betrayal, beauty emerging from darkness. All signed with my new name, Claire Foster. I adjusted my dress, still uncomfortable in my new skin, when I saw him. Travis, standing before my centerpiece, a woman's face split between light and shadow, a wine glass reflecting flames. Remarkable work, a voice beside me said. I turned to find a man with kind eyes and paint-stained hands. I'm Eli Turner, the gallery owner. Claire, I replied, watching Travis from the corner of my eye. He was reading the painting's title, Thursday Nights at the Golden Leaf. Your pieces speak to transformation, Eli said. Pain becoming power. Very personal. Before I could respond, Travis's voice cut through the crowd. Where did you get your inspiration? He was staring at me now, recognition flickering in his eyes. 3 months since I'd left him with those divorce papers, and he'd lost weight. Perfect suit hung loose on his frame. Life experience, I said, meeting his gaze. Some people wear masks. I paint them. Sera. He whispered my real name like a prayer or a curse. Eli looked between us, sensing the tension. You know each other? No, I said firmly. Not anymore. Travis grabbed my arm. We need to talk. Let go. My voice carried across the gallery, heads turning. Everything you took from me, my reputation, my mother's respect, my position at the firm. His fingers dug into my flesh. Was revenge worth it? Was Thursday night at the Golden Leaf worth it? I pulled free. Was trying to hurt your client's wife worth what happened to me? To our baby. Eli stepped forward, protective, but I held up my hand. You want to know about inspiration, Travis? Look around. Every painting here tells a story about masks and lies. About men who destroy what they claim to love. I never meant to hit my car. No, you meant to hit someone else's. That makes it better. The gallery had gone silent, watching our drama unfold. In the corner, I spotted Graham Foster, who'd helped orchestrate this moment. Beside him stood Sarah from accounting, her face pale but determined. You're not the only one with stories to tell, I continued. Sarah's here. So are 3 other women from the office. All with similar tales about Thursday nights and threats and accidents. Travis's face went ashen. You can't prove. Actually, Graham stepped forward, we can. My son may have been driving drunk that night, but the police are very interested in who put him up to it. And why? You set this up, Travis realized, looking at the crowd of witnesses. The gallery, the paintings, all of it. No, Travis. You set this up. Years ago, when you decided other people's lives were yours to destroy. He lunged for the painting, but Eli was faster, stepping between us. Travis's fist connected with Eli's jaw instead of the canvas. Security appeared instantly, restraining Travis as he shouted about lies and betrayal. As they led him away, Irene emerged from the crowd, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. "I never knew," she whispered, "about any of it. The women, the accidents, the baby. Would it have mattered?" She flinched at my tone, finally seeing herself in my paintings, the enabler, the keeper of masks. "I'm sorry," she said, but I was already turning away. Eli touched his bruised jaw, managing a smile. "Hell of an opening night. I should explain." "You don't owe me explanations." He gestured to the paintings. "Your art already tells the truth. The real question is, what story do you want to tell next?" I looked around the gallery, at my pain transformed into beauty, at the women Travis had hurt now standing tall, at Graham's proud smile, at Eli's understanding eyes. "Something new," I said finally. "Something that isn't about masks or revenge." "I'd like to hear that story," Eli said softly. For the first time since the accident, I felt truly seen, not for my old face or my new one, but for who I was beneath both masks. "So would I," replied, ready to begin again. 1 year later, I stood in my studio apartment, surrounded by half-packed boxes and new paintings. These weren't about masks or revenge anymore. They showed healing, growth, moments of unexpected joy caught in color and light. A letter from Graham sat on my desk, delivered this morning. I'd been afraid to open it, but now seemed like the time. "Dear Sarah," or Claire, "you'll always be both to me now. My son came home yesterday. 6 months sober. He asked about you, about the accident. I told him everything, about Travis's manipulation, about your transformation, about how your strength helped me find the courage to reconnect with him. He wants to apologize in person, but I told him that's your choice to make. Some scars need time to heal. Others teach us who we really are. Thank you for showing me that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about painting a better future. Graham." A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Eli stood there, paint-stained hands holding coffee and bagels. "Ready for moving day?" "Almost." I gestured at the chaos. "Just reading a letter from Graham." "Good news." "Different news." I touched my face, no longer the one I was born with, not quite the one Travis had destroyed, but entirely my own. "His son wants to meet." Eli set down breakfast, giving me space to process. That's what I loved about him. He understood the power of silence. "The gallery called," he said finally. "They want to know if you're ready to show your new series." I looked at my latest paintings. No more darkness, no more hidden meanings. Just light breaking through clouds, hands reaching toward each other, faces emerging from shadows into dawn. I think I am. I picked up my favorite piece, a self-portrait showing all 3 versions of me, not as masks but as chapters in a longer story. But under my real name this time. "Which one?" "Both. Serafina Claire Blake." "No more hiding." He smiled, understanding what this meant. "And the meeting with Graham's son?" "Maybe." I folded Graham's letter carefully. Some stories need proper endings. My phone buzzed, a news alert about Travis. He'd pleaded guilty to conspiracy charges, along with several counts of harassment. The other women had come forward, each with their own stories of Thursday nights and threats and accidents. Irene had testified against him. "You know," Eli said, reading over my shoulder, "your first show helped those women find their voice. They helped me find mine too." I closed the article. I thought revenge would heal me, but it was telling the truth that finally did it. We spent the morning packing, wrapping each painting carefully. Eli handled them like precious things, not because of their value but because they were pieces of my journey. Near sunset, we carried the last box to his truck. My new apartment was above his gallery, a place for both art and living, he'd said. A place to begin again. Oh, he reached into his pocket. This came to the gallery yesterday. It was a small package from Irene. Inside, I found my old wedding ring and a note. I kept this when Travis threw it away. It belonged to his grandmother, but it should have been yours. Sell it, keep it, whatever brings you peace. I'm learning that's what matters most. Irene. I held the ring up to the fading light. Once it had represented everything I wanted. Now it was just a circle of metal, heavy with history but powerless to hurt me. What will you do with it? Eli asked. I smiled, an idea forming. I think I just found the centerpiece for my new show. Something about transforming old pain into new beauty. He took my hand, the one that used to wear that ring, and kissed it softly. Ready to go home? Home. Not a place to hide or seek revenge. Not a mask to wear or a role to play. Just a space to be wholly, completely myself, scars, changes, strength and all. Yes, I said, leaving the past behind one final time. I'm ready. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, tucked between a cable bill and a pizza coupon. No return address, just my name in careful block letters. I almost tossed it with the junk mail, but something about its weight made me pause. My name is Mara, and until that moment, I thought I had the kind of life people envied. Kind where you post perfect family photos on social media and actually mean the happy captions. I stood in my sunny kitchen, where my daughter Ivy's artwork plastered the fridge and the morning's breakfast dishes still waited in the sink. The envelope felt heavy in my hands, like it knew it was about to change everything. Inside was a single sheet of paper and 3 photographs. The first line read, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but your husband is having an affair. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set the letter down on the counter. The photos spilled out, Caleb, my husband of 8 years, with a woman I'd never seen before. They were leaving what looked like a hotel, his hand on the small of her back. In another, they were kissing outside a restaurant I recognized downtown. The third showed them sharing a booth at our favorite date night spot, their fingers intertwined across the table. Timestamp on the photos was from last week, when Caleb said he was working late on a big client project. I must have read the letter 10 times, trying to make the words say something different. The anonymous writer claimed to be a concerned friend who'd witnessed their relationship developing over the past 6 months. 6 months. While I'd been teaching 3rd graders and driving Ivy to ballet, my husband had been building a whole separate life. My phone buzzed, making me jump. A text from Caleb. Running late tonight? Don't wait up. I typed and deleted responses until my fingers hurt. Finally, I just wrote, we need to talk when you get home. The hours crawled by. I picked up Ivy from my mom's house, helped her with homework, made dinner and tucked her in, all while feeling like I was moving underwater. Every time I looked at her sweet face, so much like her father's, my chest ached. It was almost midnight when I heard Caleb's key in the lock. He tried to sneak in quietly, probably expecting me to be asleep. Instead, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the letter and photos laid out in front of me. Hey, he said, freezing in the doorway. What are you still doing up? I pushed the photos across the table. Who is she? Color drained from his face. He opened his mouth, closed it, then slumped into the chair across from me. Mara, I can explain. 6 months, Caleb? 6 months of lying to my face. It's not what you think, he started, but I cut him off. Really? Because I think you've been sleeping with another woman while I've been here, building a life with you, thinking we were happy. His eyes darted to the stairs, checking if Ivy might hear us. Keep your voice down. That's what broke me. Him trying to manage how I expressed my own devastation. You don't get to tell me how to react to this, I said, my voice sharp and quiet. Who sent these? I don't know, he said, running his hands through his hair. Look, her name is Sienna. It started as just, I don't know, but I want to fix this. We can fix this. I stared at him, this man I thought I knew better than anyone. Fix what? The lying? The cheating? Or just the fact that you got caught? He reached for my hand across the table. I pulled back like his touch might burn me. "I'll end it," he said. "I'll do whatever it takes. We have Ivy to think about." The mention of our daughter felt like a punch to the gut. "Don't you dare use her as a shield," I whispered. "Not after what you've done." I stood up, gathering the photos and letter. "I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow, you can explain to our daughter why Daddy won't be living here anymore." As I walked away, he called after me, "Mara, please. I love you." I paused in the doorway, not turning around. "No," I said quietly. "I don't think you do." I didn't expect my mother to side with Caleb. That's what hurt the most, sitting in her pristine living room the next morning, watching her stir her tea with precise movements while telling me to think this through carefully. "Marriage takes work, Mara," she said, as if I'd complained about him leaving dishes in the sink. "Your father and I have been through rough patches too." "Did Dad sleep with his coworker for 6 months?" I asked, my voice sharper than I'd intended. "Did he take her to your anniversary dinner spot?" My mother's spoon clinked against her cup. "Don't be dramatic. Think about Ivy. Think about your position in the community. The Hargroves are important people, and divorce is so messy. Of course she'd worry about appearances. Clara Eldridge, queen of the country club set, couldn't have her daughter causing a scandal." I stood up, my coffee untouched. "I need to pick up Ivy from school," I said, though it was only 10 in the morning. "Sit down," my mother said firmly. "Your father and I have discussed this, and we think you should consider marriage counseling before making any rash decisions." "You discussed my marriage with Dad?" The betrayal stung fresh. "When?" "Caleb called us this morning. He's devastated, sweetheart. He made a mistake, but he wants to make it right." My hands started shaking. "He called you before I could?" "He's trying to save your marriage," she said, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "He knows he messed up, but—" My phone buzzed. A text from Tess. "Why is your husband having lunch with some blonde at Cafe Luna? Want me to key his car?" I showed my mother the text. "Still think he's devastated?" Her face tightened. "Perhaps there's more to the situation than—" "Stop." I grabbed my purse. "Just stop defending him. He's not the person you think he is." As I reached the door, she called after me. "What about the fundraising gala next week? The school board is expecting both of you." Turned back, incredulous. "My marriage is falling apart and you're worried about a gala?" "Your father chairs that board, Mara. It would look terrible if—" "If what?" "If people found out your perfect family isn't so perfect." The drive to Cafe Luna took 7 minutes. I spotted them through the window, Caleb and Sienna, heads bent close together over coffee cups. She was younger than I'd expected, prettier. The kind of woman who made men feel important. I walked in before I could talk myself out of it. The bell above the door announced my arrival, and Caleb's head snapped up. Color drained from his face. "Mara," he started, standing quickly. "This isn't, we're just discussing." "Discussing what?" I asked quietly. "How to fix our marriage." Sienna stayed seated, her manicured fingers wrapped around her cup. "You must be the wife," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Caleb's told me so much about you. Funny, he's never mentioned you." I turned to Caleb. "Does your mother know about her? Since you're so concerned about family these days." "Let's talk about this somewhere private," he said, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. "No need. I just came to tell you I've made an appointment with a divorce lawyer for Thursday. You can have your mother call them directly, since that's apparently how we're handling things now." "Mara, please," he said, but I was already walking away. Inside, my phone buzzed again. My mother. "Don't do anything hasty. Come back and we'll discuss this properly." I turned off my phone and drove to the elementary school where I taught. My classroom was empty during lunch break, the walls covered in my students' artwork. I sat at my desk, surrounded by the cheerful chaos of third-grade creations, and finally let myself cry. A soft knock made me wipe my eyes quickly. Vivian Hargrove stood in the doorway, her face lined with concern. "I think," she said quietly, "we need to talk about my son." Vivian set a folder on my kitchen table 3 days after showing up at my classroom. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it, spreading out bank statements and credit card bills I'd never seen before. "I found these in Caleb's office while he was at work," she said quietly. "I thought you should know what you're dealing with." The numbers swam before my eyes. Transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Credit card charges at hotels, restaurants, jewelry stores. And most damning, regular payments to Blake Consulting Services going back 8 months. "Sienna Blake," I whispered. "He's been funding her business?" Vivian nodded, her face tight with disappointment. "Nearly $200,000 as far as I can tell. That's why I've been getting excuses about why he can't help with your father-in-law's medical bills." My stomach lurched. We'd been struggling to cover Henry's cancer treatments, while Caleb was bankrolling his girlfriend's startup. "Does he think I'm stupid?" I asked, more to myself than Vivian. "All those times he said we couldn't afford Ivy's dance classes." My phone buzzed. "Caleb, we need to talk about the house." "I'm coming over." "He's on his way here," I said, gathering the papers with shaking hands. "You should go." Vivian stood but hesitated. "Mara, be careful. When men like Caleb feel cornered." The front door opened before she could finish. Caleb stopped short, seeing his mother in our kitchen. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "Leaving," she said coldly, squeezing my hand as she passed him. Caleb watched her go, then turned to me. "What was that about?" I slid the bank statements across the table. "Want to explain Blake Consulting Services?" Color drained from his face. "You've been going through my private accounts?" "Private? We're married. Or did you forget that while spending our savings on your girlfriend?" "It's not what you think," he started, but I cut him off. $200,000, Caleb. While your father needs cancer treatments. While I'm working summer school to afford Ivy's activities." He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I used to find endearing. "Sienna's business is a solid investment. Once it takes off." "Investment?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my ears. "Is that what you call stealing from your family?" "I didn't steal anything. That money was..." "Was what? Yours?" "'Cause last I checked, we both contributed to those accounts. For our future. For Ivy's future." He slumped into a chair. "I'll pay it back. Sienna's company is about to land a major contract." "Stop." I pressed my palms flat against the table to keep them from shaking. "Just stop lying. For once in your life, tell the truth." Something shifted in his expression. "The truth? Fine. Truth is I was suffocating here, playing the perfect husband in your perfect little world. Sienna sees me for who I really am." "And who is that? A thief? A liar? Someone who wants more than PTA meetings and dance recitals." He slammed his hand on the table, making me flinch. "Someone who deserves..." "Deserves what?" I asked quietly. "To destroy your family? To steal from your dying father." Heavy footsteps on the stairs made us both freeze. Ivy stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Why are you fighting?" she asked in a small voice. Caleb's face softened. "Princess, we're just..." "Go back upstairs, sweetie," I said firmly. "Daddy's leaving." "No, I'm not," Caleb said, standing. "This is my house too." I pulled out my phone. "Leave now or I call the police and show them these bank statements." "Your choice." He stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed his keys. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "You're right," I replied, watching him walk toward the door. "It's just beginning." After he left, I sank into a chair, my hands finally allowing themselves to shake. My phone lit up with a text from Vivian. "I've made an appointment with my lawyer tomorrow. It's time to protect what's yours." I looked at the scattered papers on the table, each one a record of betrayal, and felt something harden inside me. Caleb wanted to play games? Fine. But he was about to learn I wasn't the same woman who'd married him 8 years ago. And I played to win. The divorce papers sat unsigned on my lawyer's desk while Ivy sobbed in the waiting room. Caleb had brought her, a calculated move I should have seen coming. She'd been begging to go home with him for the past hour. "Maybe we should reschedule," my lawyer suggested, glancing at the closed door. I pressed my fingers to my temples. He's using her. He knows exactly what he's doing. "Mommy!" Ivy's cry pierced through the wall. "Please, I want to go with Daddy." My hand shook as I reached for the pen. Caleb's voice drifted through, soft and comforting, playing the perfect father. The same voice he'd used to lie to me for months. Tess burst into the office, her face flushed. "Don't sign anything. You need to see this." She thrust her phone at me. On the screen was Sienna's business website, featuring their newest investment partner, Caleb Hargrove. Company announcement included a photo of them together, his arm around her waist, both beaming at the camera. "Look at the date," Tess said quietly. 3 months ago. Before the anonymous letter. Before I knew anything. He's not just funding her business, I realized. He's part owner. My lawyer leaned forward. That changes things significantly. If he used marital assets to purchase ownership. Another cry from Ivy cut through my thoughts. I stood up, my decision crystallizing. "I'll be right back." In the waiting room, Caleb sat with Ivy in his lap, stroking her hair. Perfect picture of fatherly devotion. He looked up, his expression carefully concerned. "She's upset," he said softly. "Maybe we should talk about shared custody. When were you going to tell me about your partnership with Sienna?" His hand stilled in Ivy's hair. "What?" "Your company announcement. From 3 months ago. The one where you're celebrating with your new business partner." "Honey," he said to Ivy, setting her down. "Go get a snack from the vending machine." Once she was gone, his facade cracked. "You're having me followed?" "Don't flatter yourself. It's called Google." I crossed my arms. "So that's where the money went. Not just an investment, you bought yourself a new life." "It's not like that. The opportunity came up. Save it. You can explain it to the forensic accountant." His eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't. Try me." "Think about what you're doing," he said, lowering his voice. "If you push this, it gets ugly. For everyone. Including Ivy." The threat hung in the air between us. I thought about our daughter, already struggling with the separation. About the scandal my mother feared so much. About everything I could lose. Then I thought about everything I'd already lost. "No," I said quietly. "You don't get to threaten me anymore." I walked back into the lawyer's office and picked up the pen. But instead of signing the original agreement, I wrote a new set of demands: full custody, forensic audit, and no contact until the financial investigation was complete. When I emerged, Caleb was gone. Ivy sat alone by the vending machine, clutching an unopened candy bar. "Where's Daddy?" she asked. "He had to go to work, sweetie." "I knelt beside her." "How about we get ice cream instead?" She looked at the door, then back at me. "Is Daddy bad now?" My heart cracked. "No, honey. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. Big mistakes that hurt people they love. But that doesn't make them bad. Like when I broke your necklace and didn't tell you?" I pulled her close, breathing in her sweet shampoo smell. "Something like that. But bigger. Will he fix it? Like I fixed your necklace?" I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. "I don't know, baby." But I promise you we're going to be okay. My phone buzzed, a text from Vivian. Caleb just cleared out his father's medical fund. All of it. I'm so sorry. I held Ivy tighter, feeling her small arms wrap around my neck. Sometimes the hardest part of protecting someone is knowing when to stop trying to save everyone else. The first time I saw Elliot Jennings, he was arguing with the school secretary about paint colors. I'd stayed late to grade papers, and his voice carried down the empty hallway, calm but firm, insisting that beige wasn't an acceptable choice for the new library walls. Children need color, he said. They need life. I hadn't meant to stop and listen, but something in his voice made me pause. Maybe it was the passion about something as simple as paint colors, or maybe it was just that I hadn't heard a man speak without manipulation in months. Miss Eldridge, the secretary spotted me. You're on the renovation committee. What do you think about the library colors? I found myself drawn into a conversation about warm versus cool tones with a stranger whose eyes crinkled when he smiled. He introduced himself as the project architect, a widower with a daughter in kindergarten. Nora, he said. She's in Miss Chen's class. Oh, the quiet one who draws horses, I replied, remembering the shy girl who always sat alone at recess. His face lit up. You know her work? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer, emergency. Caleb's filing for emergency custody. Claims you're unstable. Call ASAP. The phone slipped from my suddenly numb fingers, clattering on the floor. Elliot picked it up, accidentally glimpsing the message before handing it back. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I wasn't. I really wasn't. I need to go, I managed, but my legs wouldn't move. Sit, he said gently, pulling up a chair. Just breathe for a minute. The secretary had disappeared, leaving us alone in the office. I pressed my palms against my eyes, trying to stop the room from spinning. He's trying to take my daughter, I whispered, more to myself than to Elliot. The quiet one who draws cats, he said, making me look up in confusion. That's my Nora. Not horses. I wanted you to know you're not the only parent here trying to hold it together. Something about his simple honesty broke through my panic. How do you do it? Being a single parent? Badly most days, he admitted. But we survive. Sometimes that's enough. My phone buzzed again, test this time. Don't panic. I've got dirt on Caleb that'll shut this down. Meet me at Joe's in 20. I stood up, steadier now. Thank you. For the paint colors and everything else. Anytime, he said, then added, for what it's worth, I think forest green would be perfect for the library. Deep but full of life. At Joe's diner, Tess was waiting with a manila envelope and a grim expression. You're not going to like this, she said, sliding it across the table. Inside were photos of Caleb and Sienna at a jewelry store, examining engagement rings. Timestamp was from yesterday. There's more, Tess said quietly. The company they started? It's failing. They've been taking out massive loans, using your house as collateral. My house. The one I'd bought before we were married, that he'd insisted we refinance together last year. He's going to lose everything, Tess continued. The custody filing? It's a leverage play. He needs your assets to keep his new life afloat. I stared at the photos, at Caleb's smile as he pointed to different rings. The same smile he'd had when he proposed to me when we bought our house when Ivy was born. My phone lit up with a text from Elliot. Library committee meeting tomorrow. I could use an ally in the war against beige. Something shifted inside me like a key turning in a lock. I looked at Tess. I need you to help me do something, I said. Something that might be terrible but necessary. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Whatever you need. I need to destroy him, I said quietly. Not for revenge. For survival. Tess nodded, understanding darkening her eyes. Where do we start? I pulled out my phone, typing a response to Elliot. Count me in! Some battles are worth fighting. And some, I was learning, were worth winning at any cost. The forensic accountant's report landed on my kitchen table the same morning Ivy announced she wanted to live with her father. 2 bombs, minutes apart, leaving nothing but silence and debris. He said I can have a puppy, Ivy said, pushing her cereal around the bowl. And Sienna makes really good pancakes. I stared at the report summary page. Systematic fraud, embezzlement, forged signatures. The numbers blurred as Ivy continued talking about her weekend at Caleb's new house. And they're getting married next month. Sienna wants me to be the flower girl. The spoon clattered from my hand. What? Don't be mad, Ivy pleaded. Daddy said you'd be mad, but when did he tell you this? Yesterday, after he picked me up from school. My head snapped up. He what? He said you knew. Ivy's voice got smaller. Did you not know? I grabbed my phone, dialing the school. Yes, Caleb had picked her up. Yes, he'd shown proper documentation, the emergency custody filing I'd been fighting. The one my lawyer assured me wouldn't hold up. The one that apparently already had. My hand shook as I called my lawyer. Straight to voicemail. Then Tess. No answer. Finally, Vivian. I just heard, she said before I could speak. He's filed for full custody, Mara. He's claiming you're emotionally unstable and financially irresponsible. I looked at the forensic report again. But the proof is inadmissible. The records were obtained without proper authorization. All those careful plans, all that evidence, worthless. Because I'd tried to play by rules while Caleb rewrote them. Mommy. Ivy's voice wavered. Are you crying? I touched my cheek, surprised to find it wet. No, baby. Just tired. My phone buzzed. Elliot, heard about court filing. Need anything? Before I could respond, another text came through. From Sienna, let's talk. For Ivy's sake. Can I go to my room? Ivy asked. Daddy said I should pack some stuff. Something inside me cracked. No, honey. You're not going anywhere. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. Caleb had planned this perfectly. The custody filing, the wedding announcement, using our daughter as both shield and weapon. I texted Sienna back. Where? She suggested the cafe where I'd first confronted them. Of course she did. I need to run an errand, I told Ivy. Want to visit Grandma Clara? My mother answered the door with that look, the one that said she'd already heard. Really, Mara? Making that poor child choose sides? Not now, I said, pushing past her. Just watch her for an hour. Sienna was already waiting, an engagement ring glittering on her finger. My ring. The one Caleb had given me 8 years ago. Before you say anything, she started. This isn't what you think. Really? Because I think you're wearing my life like a costume. She twisted the ring. Caleb's changed. The business problems, they've made him realize that he needs my assets to stay afloat. I slid the forensic report across the table. Or that marrying you before the fraud charges hit will make it harder to trace. Her face paled slightly. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're not the first young, ambitious woman he's convinced to trust him. Just the latest. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, showing her an old news article about another failed business. Another female partner left holding the bag. He'll do it again, I said quietly. And when he does, you won't have my daughter as leverage. She stared at the article, then at me. Why are you showing me this? Because you're not my enemy, I replied, standing. You're just the next me. Walking out, I texted Elliot. Actually, yes. I need help burning everything down. His response came immediately. Library committee meets in 10. We can start with beige. I smiled for the first time that day. Sometimes the only way forward is through the flames. Sienna called me at midnight, her voice shaking. He's gone. With everything. I sat up in bed, already reaching for my shoes. What do you mean, everything? The company accounts, the wedding fund, my savings. She choked back a sob. He even took my grandmother's jewelry. Said he was having it cleaned for the wedding. A bitter laugh escaped me. Let me guess, right after you added him to your accounts? How did you know? Because that's what he does. I grabbed my keys. Where are you? At the house. Your old house. He gave me the keys last week, said we'd move in after. She stopped. There's something else. Something worse. I was already in my car. What? He took Ivy. The world tilted sideways. What do you mean, he took Ivy? She's at his apartment. No, Sienna whispered. He picked her up hours ago, said they were going on a surprise trip. I thought he'd told you. I hung up, dialing Vivian's number with trembling fingers. She answered on the first ring. I just got a call from Henry's care facility, she said before I could speak. Caleb cleared out his medical fund. All of it. They're threatening to discharge him. He has Ivy. Silence. Then, I'm calling the police. No, I said sharply. He'll disappear completely if we do that. I know where he's going. The lake house. Where we'd spent our honeymoon, where he'd always talked about retiring. Where he kept his emergency cash and spare passport. Called Elliot next. I need your help. But it's dangerous. I'll meet you there, he said without hesitation. Text me the address. The lake house was dark when I arrived, but Caleb's car sat in the driveway. Elliot pulled up minutes later, killing his headlights. Stay here, I told him. If anything happens, he grabbed my hand. Nothing's going to happen. But I called Tess anyway. She's bringing the police in 15 minutes. Inside, I found them in the master bedroom. Ivy asleep on the bed, Caleb sitting beside her with a packed suitcase at his feet. I wondered who would figure it out first, he said quietly. You or Sienna? Why? My voice cracked. Why take everything from everyone who loved you? Because it was never enough. He stood, moving between me and Ivy. Their love, your love, it all came with expectations. Be successful, be stable, be perfect. So you decided to be a thief instead? I decided to be free. He reached for Ivy. And she deserves that too. Freedom from all these expectations. Don't touch her. I stepped forward. You want to run? Fine. But you leave her out of this. She's my daughter too. No, I said quietly. She's your shield. Just like I was. Just like Sienna. Just like every person you've used to hide from your own failures. His face twisted. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I pulled out my phone, showing him the screen. And so does the SEC. Tess works for them now, did you know that? Has for years. She's been building a case since the first time you forged my signature. Color drained from his face. You're lying. Check your accounts. The ones you thought were secret. They're already frozen. He lunged for his suitcase, but I was faster. Spilled open, spilling cash and jewelry across the floor. Ivy stirred. Mommy? Daddy? It's okay, baby, I said, not taking my eyes off Caleb. We're just talking. About my surprise trip? Caleb's shoulders slumped. Side, I heard car doors closing. No trip tonight, sweetheart, I said. But I promise tomorrow we'll do something special. Just us. And Daddy? I watched as red and blue lights began flashing through the windows. Daddy has his own trip to take. Caleb didn't resist when the officers entered. He just looked at me, finally seeing me clearly for the first time in years. I did love you, he said softly. In my way. I know, I replied. That's what made it so easy to destroy you. I gathered Ivy in my arms as they led him away, her sleepy questions mixing with the sound of sirens. Sighed, Elliot waited with Nora in the car, ready to take us home. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about surviving them. 1 year later, I found myself back in the school library, now painted in deep forest green. Ivy and Nora sat cross-legged in the reading nook, sharing a book about horses or maybe cats. It didn't matter anymore. The SEC finished their investigation, Tess said, joining me at the window. Caleb's looking at 8 to 10 years. I watched our daughters laughing together. Did they recover any of the money? Some. Enough to restore Henry's medical fund, at least. She hesitated. Sienna's been cooperating. She wants to make amends. Good for her. I meant it. Revenge had lost its taste months ago, replaced by something quieter. Something like peace. Elliot appeared in the doorway, paint swatches in hand. Ready for the cafeteria renovation? No more beige, I warned, making him smile. Never again. The wedding ring on my finger caught the afternoon light, different from my first, simpler but somehow more solid. Like the man who gave it to me. Mom, Ivy called from the reading nook. Can I show Nora the letter? My heart stuttered. The letter had arrived last week, Caleb's first communication since his sentencing. I'd let Ivy read it alone, watching her face as she absorbed her father's words. If you wanna, honey. The girls bent their heads together over the paper. I couldn't hear what they were whispering, but I saw Nora squeeze Ivy's hand. You okay? Elliot asked quietly. Getting there. I leaned into him. He asked to see her. What are you going to do? Let her decide. When she's ready. My mother hadn't understood that choice. He's still her father, she'd argued. But she hadn't seen Ivy's face that night at the lake house, or the weeks of nightmares that followed. Some wounds need time before you can even think about healing. Miss Eldridge! A small voice interrupted my thoughts. One of my students stood clutching a familiar-looking envelope. This was in the library drop box. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a check, a large one, and a note in Sienna's handwriting, for Ivy's college fund. I'm sorry. Karma's funny sometimes, Tess mused, reading over my shoulder. Not karma, I corrected. Choice. We all made choices. Vivian visited sometimes, bringing photos and stories from Caleb's childhood. Not to excuse, but to understand. To help Ivy understand. She'd chosen family over loyalty to her son's actions. Even my mother had chosen, finally, to see beyond appearances. She'd been the one to suggest therapy for Ivy to help her process everything. Mom, Ivy appeared at my side. Can we get ice cream? Nora's never had the Superman flavor. Never! I gasped in mock horror. Elliot, what kind of father are you? He raised his hands in surrender. I plead guilty to boring ice cream choices. Then we better fix that. I gathered my things, watching our daughters race ahead, already planning their orders. You know, Tess said thoughtfully, revenge stories usually end with someone destroyed. But this isn't about destruction anymore, I finished. It's about reconstruction. Sighed, Ivy and Nora waited by the car, giggling about something only they understood. Elliot's hand found mine, steady and warm. Ready, he asked. I thought about the letter in Ivy's backpack, the check in my purse, the paint swatches for next week's renovation. About all the ways life moves forward, even when you think it's stuck in the past. Almost, I said, pulling out my phone. I had one last text to send to Sienna. Thank you for choosing differently. Then I put the phone away and joined my family. Some stories don't end with a bang or even a whimper. They end with Superman ice cream and green library walls and the quiet understanding that healing isn't a destination but a journey. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you find people to share that journey with you.